Well, guys, my guest isn't here yet, but I didn't want to make you wait any longer, so I decided to jump in ahead. Once he shows up, we'll bring him in here. I actually wanted to ask a question. I was actually going to do this as like a little Instagram live this week, but I have a dilemma that I want to ask you guys about. So I have a tournament coming up on Shelburne Pond. I'll say the body of water because we're going to be fishing there soon. I have only a couple of weekends between now and that tournament. And then immediately after, I've only got about another week before the next tournament. So, my question to everybody in the chat is, do I go and fish Shelburne Pond, the next tournament lake, exclusively and burn myself out? Or do I just fish it once or twice and try to rely on instincts and bear fishing's intuition as to how we're able to break it down? So I'm going to put that to you guys in the chat. It's something I was going to ask later, but I figured when better than now when I'm trying to kill some time until my guest shows up. I know Scott Vermont or Michael Bradley's got some input on that for sure. Sorry, guys. He's actually texting me right now. Yeah, I forgot about time zones. All right, guys. Sorry about that. More like this is like a mainstream fishing live stream right now, where I'm just sitting here talking to you guys. But come on, guys, don't be shy. I know Michael Bradley's down there in the chat. You're usually the first one to give me some information. So, the other thing I want to talk about, guys, I can kind of give you a quick update about things that are coming on the channel. So, I actually just finished editing a video for the tournament that we just completed. Me and Bear completed our first ever tournament, and we were able to basically do really well. I'm not going to say how well we did, but that video is going to be coming out very, very soon. Also, I have a ton of videos that are going to be hitting in May, and I want to clarify something for all of you who follow my channel. And sorry, I'm messaging right now. Hold on, guys. Trying to see if I can get a special guest to come in and fill the gap for me. All right, sorry. I think I would fish it a few times, maybe closer to the tournament date. Okay. Let me do something real quick here, guys. So yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking is I don't necessarily want to like blow it up either. You know what I mean? Like I want to try to figure it out. So it's not a body of water that I'm super familiar with, but it's also not a body of water that I'm a stranger to. That place is pretty basic. There's not a lot to that place, so it's not super hard to fish or anything. It's just a matter of getting it sorted out so that I can basically be competitive. The guys that we're competing against, there's a couple of pretty decent anglers. There's two guys that never really actually competed before. So there's some of those guys that are not able to really have the exposure that I've had the tournament fishing. But overall, it's a kind of a mixed bag in the tournament trail. And this is a body of water that somebody picked. So the way they did the tournament trail this year was everybody that competes gets to pick a body of water that they get to compete on. So it's going to be interesting to see how we compete against people on the body of water that isn't their home lake. So this first event was my home lake, and it's a body of water that I'm super familiar with. Whereas this one, I've only fished a few times because for those of you who are familiar with Shelburne Pond, you know that they have a huge blue-green algae bloom that happens every single year. And I try not to fish it as much because I don't want to have to clean my boat. Hey Todd, so I think it's 400 acres, 300 acres. It's not huge. And it's very much like a glacial style bowl in the middle. There's some rock ledges on the sides. Um, the biggest thing about that body of water is really the fact that it is a kind of an unknown to me. I've only really caught fish there doing one specific technique and never really invested a lot of time breaking it down. So I know basically two spots that there's somewhat consistent fishing. But other than that, it's also very shallow. So there's some shallow portions on the edges, but I think the deepest portion of it is like 20 feet. So it's not your super, super deep lake, but it's very, very basic and very simple to kind of break down, but at the same time, I'm competing against other people. And, it's something that, I don't want to make sure I know everything I can, but I also tend to overfish places and then burn myself out. And then I end up doing worse because I think I know more than I actually do just because I had success. So if that makes any sense at all, probably not. But overall, it's kind of a funky deal where it's it's a weird body of water for sure. Yeah, see, Brad, exactly. That's the thing, dude, is that the way this place is set up is it's surrounded by farms. So it's got a lot of runoff. The best water clarity on this body of water is chocolate milk. Like that's when it's good. Otherwise, it's Mountain Dew green for most of the summer. So that's really the biggest thing is it's tricky to like basically break down because you can't see what you're on top of. You have no way of seeing the bottom at all, and it's super super thick. You have to use basically bright baits because everything is so dark, or dark baits to contrast because they're not going to see a green pumpkin. It just disappears in this water. I'm trying to bring Bear Fishing in here, but I don't know if he's sitting there doing his hair or what he's doing. There he is.
Let's go. What
What's
is
up,
going
buddy?
on?
So I'm bringing in a substitute guest because I don't pay attention to time zones, and my guest won't be here for another half hour. So I figured I'd bring in my original co-host back for a little few minute video. So I was just telling him. So I was actually going to ask you this question too, but I did it on a live. So I'm not really giving much away. We're going to pre-fish this body of water next week on Thursday, and I'm not sure if I want to fish it Saturday and Sunday. I'm almost thinking that I don't want to overfish it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of almost want to take a break from it because I might get burned out with it and not put the mental effort into it.
Yeah, I definitely suggest working your way around the entire lake if you do go one of the days,
Yeah,
just to see. I guess turn your sonar on just to see the water depth and all that. I know you said you've been. I don't know if you remember the layout that much. I know you said some
I,
areas it's just nah, yeah. So I suggest doing that, and then at least Thursday we could both break it down with different techniques and that.
yeah.
But I think you could get on them for sure this weekend.
So the thing is, dude, what sucks about it is the weather. So the forecast is iffy. So the forecast is calling for Saturday is supposed to be the nicer day. So I'm planning on spending the whole day there, at least
Yeah.
Saturday. But Sunday, dude, I've seen everything from 80% chance of rain and 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts to 15-mile-an-hour wind gusts and 40% chance of rain. So I don't know. I don't. This place is like. Remember when we fished Iroquois
Yeah.
and the wind picked up and it got stupid nasty?
Yeah.
This place is worse.
Yeah. No. No.
And I
I would
hate. I
try.
don't want to like get all beat up and thrown around in the freaking wave when I know I'm gonna be fishing there 4 days later with you anyway. So it's like
Yeah. No. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't waste time. Try. Then I would try going to the other place that you still haven't cracked yet.
I could. You know, the other thing I thought about doing, which is
But
really dumb, is I thought about going up to Miles.
oh gosh,
I mean, I don't know that place at all. Never even seen it. So
isn't that near New Hampshire?
yeah, it's way up. Yeah,
Wow.
I travel, dude.
Yeah, I know. So do I.
It does. Yeah, exactly. You drive down from Canada and sleep on my couch.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So,
No, that's cool though.
but no, dude, it's what's crazy is so I don't know about you, but like this is like the beginning of the content creation season. You know what I mean? So like fishing started way earlier for me than it normally does. So
Yeah.
like this is really like normally this week is when I usually am like starting to think about busting the kayak out, and I've already been fishing for 2 months.
My earliest video release was in May last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're on the same page with that.
Not to mention we've had what
What?
four ice fishing collabs and a video that while your video hit today that if you guys haven't checked it out, go check out Bear Fishing. There's a little preview video on my version will come out a little later, but it's the actually literally basically our practice for the tournament. So it's I didn't release it because we did pretty good. So you guys are going to watch that video to see how good we did. But ultimately, I didn't release my pre-fishing video because I didn't want to give the competition any information before we fished. So
Yeah. Remember you're like, yeah, do not release this video before the tournament.
yeah, dude. So you know what's funny is the one that hit for me um was legit. The one that just hit was the first time I went there before you came down.
Yeah.
And then I got another video coming down. That's the one that is the my version of your video that you just released. But I also have another one. Like I have a bunch of videos on that body of water
Yeah.
that I just didn't release because
The next video is gonna be insane though.
that dude, yeah, that was probably the most insane day of fishing that our collaboration history has had.
My back cam caught you actually going like this, being proud of me at one
Really?
point,
Dude,
bro. I'm zooming in on that. You're just gonna be full screen.
so if you guys haven't noticed, there has been a change in my demeanor when I'm fishing in tournaments or just fishing. Like this guy will literally get pumped over a 12-inch, perch like he caught a state record. And it's starting to rub off on me because now when I hook a fish, I'm starting to like show that emotion. And I never used to do that, but it's just I don't know. It's like it's funny how like when you fish with someone long enough too, like I'm not trying to give away any information, but like one thing I noticed in the editing, dude, was like me and you have gotten to the point now where it's completely nonverbal communication when we're tournament fishing. Like I
Yeah,
was watching my back cam and there was times where like I was actively fishing and you're actively fishing 3.5 feet in front of me and we're both
I know. Just
like
adjusting, and it's
keeping
weird.
exactly the same distance and just turning. Like I knew right when you were gonna cast, and then I would spin the like. We just literally were like synchronized kayaking the whole time. Actually, that footage that we got from the drone, dude.
Yeah,
When you watch that, dude, it's nuts. Like we were literally like, even though we were like probably 15 yards apart, we were still like purposely like locking into each other.
yeah, I know. Magic happened that day.
It is different in tournaments. So, Daniel, from May Contain Fishing, my boy over there, he's like, it is different. And I told Bear this, and he kind of got the flavor of it. Like it's different in a tournament. The mentality is different, and every fish just feels different when you catch a fish in a tournament for sure.
Yep,
It was insane, dude. The thing is, too, is the weather was awful. It really was.
bro. The beginning was terrible.
It was, dude. Look at this freaking tan line.
Yeah, I
I'm
got burnt
literally
on my face.
brown here down because I rolled up my hood, but from here up is like white. My
I
face.
literally had to cut off the sleeves on my lucky shirt because of how windy it was in the morning. I put electrical tape around my sleeves on my feet to make socks.
Dude,
That's how
that
cold
was
it
the
was.
funniest. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, you realize though, on one of those drone footages, he's got you putting your socks on.
Is he really?
You look at the video, you see you like screwing around in front of your kayak, and I realize it's when you were cutting your shirt up and wrapping the socks around your
That's
feet.
crazy.
dude, it was crazy. But um, so what do you got for? I mean, without giving away too much, you got some content coming up on your channel, right?
Definitely. I have. I'm behind 4 videos. After
Wow,
tonight, I'm behind 4 videos. But now this is the first week ever in the history of my long 2 year history of a YouTube channel that I'm actually releasing 2 videos in the same week.
the
What's
director
up?
himself in the chat,
Yes, sir.
dude. So you got so you got a bunch of like urban stuff still, right? That's what you're editing up
No,
as
it's
well.
actually the Caribbean stuff.
Oh, dude, you're that far behind.
Yeah, bro. Got
What you
back
guys
and I
don't know is
got
like
back
me
and
and
got on my
Mark are
kayak 2 days later. That's what
true,
happened. So I've been fishing on my kayak 3 times since I got back, and I got back 3 weeks ago. So I got all that plus a video hitting every week with the kayak.
dude.
So yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
I know you got videos until 2027, but
So me and Bear talk 5, 10 times a day on a bad day, and
yeah,
he seed my schedule. So you guys know, I mean, it's perfect. This is the audience that's going to probably watch most of it. Starting May, I think I have 3 videos a week, sometimes 4 if you count the live stream, and that's going to roll right into July and possibly even more because I cheated a little bit last year and I saved some footage from last year and I ended up re-releasing a couple of things that actually really just didn't get views because I released it at the wrong time. So, moral of the story is, you guys are probably going to be sick of listening to me, just like this guy is, because I'm going to have videos pretty much every 2 days all summer long, and the goal is to have some really cool collaborations. I got some stuff in the works. I've also got a bunch of videos with Bear Fishing himself because we got a whole tournament series that we're doing together.
oh yeah,
Pete, if you're fishing Sunday, dude, let me know. Hit me up because I'll go. If you're going, I'll go with someone. Maybe I can get some secrets and then, we can steal information from each other. For those of you who don't know, maybe you didn't pick up on it or anything, we're doing the Slay Nation. It's a small vessel series, so it's a team trail. If you guys haven't seen the live stream or know about that, I decided to team up. Well, actually, Bear decided he wanted to compete in tournaments and asked me about it. And overall, it just made sense. He has to drive all the way down from Canada, so he might as well be driving all the way down for a tournament. I mean, not that fun fishing isn't fun, but just adds another incentive for him to come down and hang out with me. So we decided that we're going to be doing the tournament. There's 6 stops, one of which has already been completed, and I'm not giving away any more information other than that. And Pete, shh, because he's the director and he knows the final results. But overall, we're going to be releasing those as as we do them. They will be out as probably close, honestly, as we can to the actual date, just because neither one of us like to hold on to that footage because we're usually so pumped about putting stuff like that out. But
yeah,
there's going to be some other stuff for sure. The enthusiast adventurer is finally getting her bus started to be ready, so she may be up here in May. You should actually come up and we should all do a collab for that too. And
yeah.
I might be going down to Jersey to get snakehead. You ever caught a snakehead?
Nope,
You should.
never caught a snakehead. They've been there in Florida, but I never went for them. Yeah,
My girl Janelle got Bobby roast beef on one like this weekend.
no way.
So apparently she's got a river that like loaded. Like they're because they're an invasive, you have to kill them.
Okay,
You literally have to catch them and gut them and throw them on shore.
they're an
You can eat
aggressive
them.
species.
You can
Those,
eat them if you want, but I mean
yeah, but they eat everything. That's why they're so.
so I'm
Yeah,
thinking, maybe if you come down, maybe you come to my house and we throw your
down to
kayak at the trailer
Jersey.
for a little south.
3 hours is enough.
Yeah, but I know a girl down there with a bus that we could sleep on, do a weekend trip of it.
And catch
Yeah,
snakehead.
catch snakehead. Just
Yeah,
say, dude.
I'm gonna have to get a hat that says America.
I don't know why. You just need to move here
Yeah, get me a job.
tomorrow.
Yeah, here you go.
You just got to get smarter with tech. That's all.
Yeah, I need to be a hacker.
Yeah, just got to get good with the technology, bro.
So next week I am gonna be so out of my element. Largemouth. The only good thing, muddy water, I fished it, but
So you will and you won't. Your skill set is not largemouth, but it is ledge fishing, riprap. Um, you like the dink and dunk the shoreline, and this place has like there's two whole shorelines that are kind of like rocky, ledgy, bluff wall style stuff.
yeah.
Like I said, I fished it 4 times, 4 times in 2 years, but I usually just avoid it because of the algae. But the algae actually wasn't there the last time I was there. I don't know if
I
those
know.
fish
There's
are out
some
there
times where you see pictures and it looks clear, and then other times where it's just
fucking Mountain Dew.
green. Yeah,
Yeah.
I went once and it was Mountain Dew, literally.
So,
And
the thing is it's not very deep either.
no, it doesn't
Looking
seem.
at that depth chart map, it was like 19 feet.
Is it man made?
Probably.
I feel
It's
like.
in the middle of like cornfields and crap. So
Yeah,
it's like literally farmland all around. That's where the algae comes from, is the runoff from the farms.
yeah. No, I'm
And
pumped though. I know
every
there's pike there too. We're gonna
there's
have a lot of pike, yeah, byproduct for
huge
sure,
like
for sure.
I picked up another one of those picos.
Yeah.
So dude, yeah, I was gonna tell you this. Actually, these guys will enjoy the story. So I went to the Dick's Sporting Goods and picked up some stuff, right? I wanted to get some Kytex and other shit. And this kid couldn't have been more than 10, walks up to me and he goes, "Excuse me, what are your thoughts on poppers?" This fucking 10-year-old. And I was like,
Oh no, he asked Binya a question.
and I'm like,
Little did he know.
I'm in. So dude, me and him walked around for 35 minutes and he left that store with belly weighted twist lock hooks, the Kitech Easy Shiners, which I actually gave him. So there was only three of the Pro Blue Shiner left. I took one out of my basket and gave him that one and swapped it for another color and a Picos. Cause dude, so, and you're gonna laugh at this. So I was talking the whole time. He was like asking me all these questions, and his grandfather came over, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I'm like, "No, dude, I do this for fun. Like, I talk on the internet about fishing, talking this, it's one thing if it's a grown adult, I probably will cut the conversation short. But when it's a 10-year-old that is that excited about fishing, I'm all in, right?"
Yeah.
So he's talking to me, and he goes, "Well, so I've been catching trout," and I'm thinking to myself, like, dude, I don't know crap about
Oh
trout.
no.
So then he goes, "Have you ever heard of Kent Pond?" I
Wow.
was like, "Yeah, a little,
Just a bit.
just a little." And he's literally like asking me about it. He's like, "Well, what would you catch there?" And I'm like, "Well, take this and that and use this." Dude, he's got that Lose American Hero, like that green and orange spinning rod.
Yep.
That's what he's fishing with. It's a
Okay.
$90 combo.
Yeah.
That's a better combo than I'm fishing with.
Yeah.
Like I don't even fish with that.
No, that's cool. No, so that actually happened to me in Florida, but it was the opposite. He was teaching me how to catch peacock bass.
Dude, it's funny. Like, I think the thing about YouTube that's really cool is that you get that though. You get these kids that, like, when I was at the New England Trade Show with Abe, like, there was like 12-year-olds that were coming up and asking me the sink rate on our swim baits. I didn't know swim
Yeah.
baits even existed when I was that
The
age, let
guys were
alone
talking about that
asking
at
what
the
the
brand. They
yeah,
were saying how advanced like the younger fishermen are now because of YouTube and the internet. It's true. And
yeah.
even like what the newer brands are doing, like something like Guggen Squad, they're literally like catering to the younger generation with the type of baits or advertisement. So it's cool. It's changing.
Well, to be honest, too, also that the Ben Milliken made he brought the swim bait into the kids' eyes, like, throwing those big glides and those big
Yeah.
baits. Popular as he is on YouTube, all of a sudden these kids are starting to buy. Like I was seeing guys walking around with freaking carrying rods and stuff, and then I look and you could tell like they weren't there to buy the rods. Their 10-year-old in front of them, 12-year-old in front of them was the one that they bought the rods for,
That's crazy.
To answer your question, Daniel asked what rod I broke. So if you guys haven't seen the video, go check it out. The video that just hit on my channel. But I had a Guggen Green Series spinning rod. It was actually one of my favorite rods. I actually fished it one of the first times with him, and that was the one I had on Waterbury.
Yep. Yeah,
And,
no.
and dude, I don't know what happened. I don't know if I hit it. I don't know if I damaged it, but I actually set the hook throwing a freaking MEP spinner, and it hooked into milfoil, and I set the hook and I heard a crack, and I looked down and it was bent over on the end. So I still don't know. It's a one piece rod too, so it wasn't like it was like a weak rod. It should have been stronger than a normal rod, but I don't spend a lot of money on spinning rods. I, I mean that one was probably the most expensive spinning rod I bought because that was $100 rod.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I never got a bait caster.
Why?
Bro, I can't wait to get decked out in spinning rods. Like, hey, I don't know. They don't do me any well. I didn't bird's nest my spinning rod once. Once my leader came off my Mac bait caster the other day. So I don't know. Like, what's the point? I was casting just as far. I'd love to have a whole debate over that.
Did you include that in your video? What you did with that one rod?
Yeah, I actually have a clip of me kayaking up to my the crankbait that was trying to flee me all day. And I literally scooped it up in
That
my
is the
net.
funniest. So I'm going to give you guys a quick preview on his tournament video because it's hilarious. Is this man has never tried so hard to lose a bait in his life than during that tournament. It's probably 6, 7 times you fucking casted that square belt off of your leader.
Yeah,
He just kept breaking knots. It was incredible. I think
that
it's
thing.
the line you're using, dude. I really do. But
It was beat up that day. I had one less treble. I think a pike took it out. Honestly.
see, Daniel, that's the other thing. I've only broken 2 rods fishing. I've only broken 2 rods in the act of fishing. A favorite balance series and a Guggen. Every other rod that I've broke has been 100% my fault. I shut it in the door or stepped on it or pedaled down through it. It was always my fault. But that Guggen, it pisses me off because I actually almost went and bought the casting version because I liked that one so much. I caught so many bass, like Ned rig fish on that finesse series, Guggen Green series, and it just I can't now it's in my head. It's like favorite. The problem is that favorite balance series was one of my literally favorite rods because they do most of their rods are a moderate action, and I really like moderate rods. But I was casting a jig and it just broke in half. It wasn't like I was throwing a big swim bait or nothing. It was a half-ounce freaking flipping jig, and it just literally broke right off, like to the point where the top half like went down the line and slapped me on the side as I was casting.
Yeah, there was probably something just wrong with that rod in
I
particular.
probably hit it, honestly. I probably hit. That's the problem is sometimes like when I put them on my trailer and stuff, they wrap against something in my trailer and it creates a weak spot, and it just sucks. But are
I
you? So
lost
by
my
the way,
rod.
dude, did you want that? Yeah, dude. Yeah, you're getting that one back.
Yeah, no, that's gone.
Did you want that other? I think I have one more spinning rod if you want that for.
No, it's okay.
I'm running out of backups, dude. So I figured out. Remember how I kept casting off my leader?
Yeah,
Did you know what that was?
line was what?
I ended up checking it out when I got home. The reason why I kept having problems with my spinning rod and I kept breaking it off is because, dude, that's the one that fell out of the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and the insert and the tip was all fucked.
Okay.
So it was jagged on the inside of the tip, so that line was rubbing on the fucking. So I'm probably gonna have to buy like a tip saver and cut that
Yeah,
off and put a tip saver on there. Because
that
the
makes
rest of the
sense.
rod's fine. There's inserts on every other eye. But I think even if you look at the end of it, you know how like on the tip of a rod that has like the little stabilizers, the stabilizers are bent in. So I think it hit so hard that it actually broke the insert out of it.
Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
my line was just rubbing on that insert the whole time. So that's why I kept casting off my reaction tackle wacky rigs, actually, is what I was casting with that.
Yeah, so
So,
yeah, you went wacky rig. That's funny.
dude, do you know what's normally I wouldn't, but that lake, that specific lake,
You don't
has
know.
it's weird. You know, you fished it, dude.
Yeah,
Now you
yeah, you don't know. Yeah,
twice. It's
like where I
not
started catching my first two biggest fish on the crankbait were in 3 feet of water, but there's those little like dents in the
Yep,
bottom near
yep,
the docks. In that little bait, there's those little dents and those
yep,
crevices, and that's where the fish were hiding. But it was just so weird. It's like
yep.
they were waiting to ambush the bait fish that came into
Well,
there.
what it is, dude, is it's where those crappie live. So the crappie all ball up in those holes,
Yeah,
and the bait fish they kind of like live in those holes because in the summertime where we were fishing, that's all grass.
right.
So they're
Oh,
so they hide in that bowl because the
yeah.
rest of it's all filled out with grass. And that bowl, those weird holes, I think they're old stumps. I think what it is I think it's old like rotted out stump holes, and those all don't have grass in them. I don't know why, but that all around it does, but inside of those they don't. So the bass and the bluegill and all that find that and they hang out there.
So I bet during the summer, if you threw a rack or a wacky right in that hole, money.
Well, it's like that one dock, dude. That's why I kept going back to it because there's always something there, always. It
Yeah.
may not always be big, but there's always a fish there. And I actually have not caught a fish in that spot in 6 trips there. I
This
think
year.
not even this year. Like last year, the
Okay.
last 3 or 4 trips there last year, I didn't catch nothing either.
Hmm.
Oh, we should talk, dude, too, actually, while I got you on here. That Groton, we should talk about that camping trip, dude. You should definitely come up for like a day.
Where? Oh, that's when you're. When are you going again?
That's July,
Yeah, I know.
because you should definitely come up there because you can't really fish that unless you're at the campground
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have a state launch. So it'd be a good chance to fish different water that you wouldn't normally be able to get into, but I can just get you in as a guest for the day or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but
Largemouth.
smallies, I guess.
Smallies. Yeah.
Smallies and largies, I guess. That's what it
Yeah.
says. But it's got trout, I think. I
No.
think it says it has trout.
I'm good.
So it's basically like a mini Seymour. So
Speaking
but
of.
soon. I'm
Speaking
thinking
of.
about next week getting the boat, the like oil and all the stuff changed out in the boat so I can. I haven't even unpacked it, dude. I mean, you saw it when you were here. It's still wrapped up tight with all the tarps and crap.
So our not this event coming, but next one is a Sunday. That Saturday, what are we thinking?
Are you coming down Saturday?
Because I think by then I'm gonna be off full weekend.
Um, to be honest, I don't want to fish there necessarily that Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
But are you like, we need to come down early? You want to come down for the day?
Yeah, yeah, it would be for the
We could
day.
go fish Chit Res to practice it.
Yeah,
Or we can go
yeah,
hook up at the lake that I said I was going to fish.
yeah.
But
No, it doesn't matter. There's options. There's
it really
also
depends on what time you're
there's
coming.
also places near you that I haven't fished, like small lakes.
Yeah, that one's going to be tricky though because that is later. So that is
Yeah,
3 weeks though. Stuff's going to start getting busier. But there's definitely 4 or 5 lakes. If you want to do something small, we can do
yeah. There's a couple
around
of
here.
yeah,
It depends on what you want to catch, dude. There's smallies, largies.
yeah.
But I didn't know. Yeah, if you're coming down Saturday, dude. So there you go, guys. There's another collab. This is literally what our text conversations are like. It's like, hey, I was like, I literally messaged him. What was it like Monday? I was like, hey, what day next week do you have off?
Yeah.
We're gonna go fish. Like
And
it's
then he
just
hasn't been stopping to bug me since, but we
yeah,
figured that out. That's gonna be good. That's gonna be good. I need to leave there catching a fish, bro.
yeah.
That will be such like a crazy thing that I'll achieve if I could catch a fish out of there. Because I've been there. I looked at it from the ramp and said, "Okay, no, there's not fish in here," and just bounced. That's literally what I did. I'm like, "Yeah, this is not worth my time." Ciao.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna let you go.
Yeah.
Cody is here now. I'm gonna kick you out, and we're gonna bring Cody in for the guys.
Until next
Yeah,
time,
check
y'all.
out his channel, guys. Bear
Enjoy the
fishing.
Spawn podcast.
See
So
you,
get me
buddy.
out of here.
And we're gonna bring Cody in right now. What's up, buddy? Hold on. Audio. It says your mic's muted somehow. Does it let you unmute yourself? I think I lost him for a second there. I think he joined and then lost service somehow.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, you kind of like did the sudden pause deal for a second.
What's happening, man?
So I suck at time zones. So I brought in my boy, who's also a YouTube content creator, and I was like, "Hey, dude, are you working right now? I'm gonna have you help me kill a half hour before we bring Cody in."
Right on, man. Appreciate it.
So for those of you who didn't read the title or notice the logo, Cody is from Reaction Tackle, which is a brand that I have been kind of sneakily using for a little bit, trying some stuff out. And I wanted to have someone come on to talk about, I like bringing on tackle guys that are part of the industry, just because you get a little bit of a different perspective than just your everyday guy at the dock who's just fishing with the baits. So, you guys may have seen me using those little wacky rig hooks, those weedless wacky rig hooks. Well, they come from the Reaction Tackle brand, and honestly, there's a bunch of stuff that they have that is really good. So I guess I'll let Cody officially introduce himself, and then we will kind of get into it from there.
Sweet. It's great to meet you, Mike. I'm excited.
Head station there. I think we lost him. Did we catch him up or not?
You got.
Starting to it's losing service a little bit there, kind of breaking up.
Let's.
Gotta love technical difficulties.
Quick pivot.
You're good.
Had the backdrop looking all good. Had the product wall looking good. No judgments on the boxes in the background. No.
Yeah. I mean, I've got junk back there too, so I hear you. That's better.
All right, everything should be good now. We're plugged direct in.
Perfect.
Awesome. Right on.
So overall, guys, I reached out to Cody because I wanted to kind of talk about like Reaction Tackle. I don't really know the history of Reaction Tackle much, so
Got me, Mike.
kind of interested in how that. Yeah, I got you now. Looks like you kind of came back. You might still be trying to like propagate through that network now. I think he's losing it again here. There you go. You're back now. I think that's way better.
Way better.
Way better. Yeah, you're starting to get like the quality it's starting to like clean up a little bit, I think.
All right. Right on.
Disconnecting from the Wi-Fi. I'm a tech guy, so it's your Wi-Fi was probably still disengaging to allow the network to come in.
Okay, right on. Well, let me just start over then. Let's start
Sure.
fresh, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm Cody. I'm from Reaction Tackle. I am the lead content creator and kind of content marketing manager. Reaction Tackle was started in 2016 by our fearless leader Chad and his wife Heather. They started the business out of their basement, and then year over year they moved into their garage. They added an addition to their garage, And then they purchased our now existing warehouse and office facility in Big Bend, Wisconsin. So I joined the team about 10 months ago. I actually applied for a role that they denied me for, and then I pitched them a new role, which is my current job, which is creating content, social media, supporting Facebook ads, doing SEO, doing some of the nitty gritty behind the scenes things, and being the face of the organization.
That's
So
great.
Reaction Tackle has been killing it with our braided fishing line. We're rated #1 on Amazon. We have been the last 5 years. We have over 85 different products and over 1,500 SKUs between different sizes, shapes, and colors. And we've doubled in size since we started. And we're continuing to come out with new products every single year. And yeah, the sky's the limit. We're just super psyched about, what the future holds and, what's to come.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually where, so I discovered you guys through Braid basically first, which
Mhm.
is kind of how most people do. And I will say this is gonna sound like a bad story, but it has a happy ending. So I bought the pink high vis braid just because I wanted to see what pink looked like in the water. Because I like high vis braid for finesse fishing. And the color kind of wore off really quickly. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if it was like a bad batch or what happened. And literally I put a comment on like on the Amazon thing, like the color wore off. Otherwise, the braid is as far as like toughness, dude. I was pulling rocks and logs and everything off the bottom. It was really good braid, but it like bleached out to white like almost immediately. Literally, Reaction Tackle, without having to even be prompted, emailed me and mailed me, overnighted me another spool braid. So like
Awesome.
that right there is like if you're gonna get product that sometimes has issues. Like it's just you're mass producing stuff and it's gonna you're producing it at a certain rate, you're gonna get some failures sometimes. But they literally emailed me on like they looked me, I don't know how it must have got it through Amazon. You probably even know how that works, but they literally emailed me directly and they're like, hey, how can we make this right? Look, we want to send you another spool. They let me pick my color, the size, and it was literally there a day and a half later. So they didn't
Awesome.
just mail me another one standard delivery, they overnighted me more line. And the line wasn't like damaged. It was just not high vis anymore. I could still
Sure.
fit fine. It's just the color had bleached out. And honestly, it's probably partially my fault because I was leaving it on the deck of my boat and it was in the sun and it bleached the line. But
Well,
when I started,
that's not an isolated incident either, man. Like we take pride in our customer service, whether it's an actual, manufacturing default or if it's just a user preference that they weren't expecting and we didn't clearly communicate it with our images or videos on either Amazon or website reactiontackle.com,
yep,
walmart.com, eBay, like those things happen and we always take the time and put the attention to detail in to make sure that our customers are happy and to kind of flip that from them being a super disgruntled, unhappy angler to believing in the company because our customer service is that good. And we stand by our products. We know that we have high quality products for a very affordable price and we fit in really well in this marketplace,
yeah,
especially today with inflation and the
nice.
the concerns of, our
Yep,
target market is anywhere from a family. We've got a cat fisherman in Wisconsin who's got 10 kids and he spools up for all of his kids and we're his go-to company. And then we support several MLF anglers on our team. So
yep.
we go the whole 9 yards. We pretty much do everything because we have so many different products and so many different areas that people in different levels of experience can be satisfied with.
It's funny too because I'll admit I didn't even know I was buying reaction. Like I knew I was buying hooks,
Yeah.
but because of Amazon, I to be honest, I never really pay attention to the brand name because Amazon's kind of famous for like having seven consonants and a vowel brands on the internet, and you don't necessarily know if you're buying a brand name or not. But I use it's the weedless wacky hooks that have the metal loop on them, and that's my favorite wacky hook because I also use it to drop shot. So it's like a multi-purpose hook for me. And most of the places I fish are all grass. Well, I've been buying hooks from Reaction Tackle and didn't even realize that they were Reaction Tackle hooks until I was actually talking to, and I didn't even. This is the other connection I didn't realize is that so Bobby Roast Beef from Jigs and Bigs.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Bobby, and he
Oh,
told
good.
me the other day that he's pro staff for Reaction Tackle. So I was like, oh, okay. I knew he had like plugged it on his podcast, but I didn't realize he was like pro staff and everything. So yeah, I fished with Bobby. I actually was fishing with Bobby like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, right on, man. Yeah, Mr. Beef is the best. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's an awesome addition to our team, and we support his podcast and everything he's doing. He brings attention to different things in the fishing industry that a lot of people don't. He has a good time doing it, and he's got a great thing going for him.
Yeah, it's an I found his podcast kind of randomly, and then I went to a trade show, and then I literally have done campouts with him and hang out with him a little bit. So, but he was telling me about that. He showed me that backpack. That
Yeah,
thing is cool.
we just launched a brand new backpack that's got 4 tackle trays that are included. It's a kitted water resistant backpack. It's right
There,
here.
nice.
It's right there. So that's a good addition to our storage portfolio. Continue to expand in that space. We have a more water resistant. We don't claim waterproof because it's
Don't
a hard
just don't.
marketing putt.
There's no such thing. Like it just
No,
doesn't exist.
no. Even the greatest companies in the world even like wader companies that are specialized in being in the swamps, like you're gonna have issues with water seeping, and it just happens. So yeah, we're super psyched, man. We've had a ton of products already launched this year. Our red, white, and blue braided line. We launched that this year. We've got that tackle bag that launched. We launched new tackle trays, and we got a bunch more coming. And then next year is supposed to be really wild too. So our owners are fully invested. They're looking 10 years plus at what we're going to be doing, and it's a special time to be a part of the organization, and we're expanding too.
It's pretty cool because I was looking at, and I'll admit it's a little bit confusing because the website has some stuff, and then there's some stuff in the Amazon store that's not on the website. So there's like a little bit of crossover there, but um, so one of the things people on my channel know, like one of my favorite baits is using a belly weighted swim bait hook, the
Mhm.
twist lock belly weighted hooks with like a Kitech. And what has happened is I can't find, like they make them, but everybody makes them in either like a 6/0, like a super long, almost like a flipping hook shape, or they make it in like a 3/0 and it's not deep enough, and then I can't get a good enough hook set. And I
Mhm.
noticed like Reaction Tackle sells it not only in like 3/0, 4/0, but then they also have a 3/0 1/8, and then they have a 4/0 1/8. Like you guys have the variety that I can't find at tackle store. Like everybody's kind of like pared down their offering, whereas from what I've seen from Reaction Tackle, you guys are expanding into different, like the tungsten nail weights. Like the difference between, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound kind of bad, but kind of good at the same time, is I used to buy those wacky hooks, and I used to get 4 in a pack for like $6. I got like a pack of 20 for like $10.
Mhm.
And then they're literally the same quality, the same hook. There's nothing different about the ones that I bought from Reaction Tackle than the ones I bought from, I think, Harmony.
Yeah.
And they're just as good. They're just as strong. I've caught fish on them the same way. They react the same in the water, but I'm getting 10 more in a bag from Reaction Tackle for a better price point. And that's what really impressed me, was that you guys have like those belly weighted hooks. It's the same deal. You're not selling them in a 3-pack. Like you're selling them in a bigger quantity, which for especially my viewers, I preach fishing on a budget. You don't need a St. Croix rod. You don't need a Shimano DC reel. You can do it with a GX2 ugly stick. And having the ability to spend less money on my terminal, less money on my storage,
Yep.
allows me to invest more in the rest of my fishing, my gear, my gas for my boat, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly, man. I mean, at a time when everything is expensive, you have to find areas that you can still maintain really high quality gear and equipment that you can trust. I think trust is obviously the biggest thing. You're not going to spend low amounts of money on things that aren't going to get you what you need.
Right.
So that's what Reaction Tackle can offer, and that's ultimately why Chad, our owner, started the business. He saw that. He was like, I see so many needs in the market for 25 packs of this hook and this and this
Yep.
and this and that, and he had a laundry list of like 100 things, and he's like, all right, something needs to come on the market. There needs to be a business that can support anglers of all expertise and give it to them at an affordable price. And he hasn't looked back since. He's as passionate today, if not more, about our mission and what we're doing here and building the culture at Reaction Tackle than he was on day one.
Now, where is Reaction Tackle headquartered?
Yeah, our HQ is in Big Bend, Wisconsin. So everyone knows Wisconsin based on Milwaukee and Madison. So we're about an hour east of Madison and about 45 minutes west of Milwaukee, pretty close to the southern border, right by Illinois.
Gotcha. So this is you're in like fishing mecca right there. So
yeah, man. I tell you what, for content production, it is a dream come true.
I can imagine. Yeah, you got a little bit of everything there, from Great Lakes to
The only thing I need is Chad to approve $100,000 budget to get me a nice bass boat, and then we'll be in the clear.
Dude, that is talking about the increase in prices, man. It is insane how those have jumped, dude.
Yes.
Like, even Bass Tracker is like, like the Bass Tracker Classic that used to be like 10 grand kitted out is now like 25, and you're like, why?
We went to the first, so I coordinated and organized Reaction Tackle's first ever expo show, the Wisconsin Fishing Expo, and it was a tremendous success for us. But during our 2-minute downtime, I was able to kind of meander around and check out some of the boats, and I was absolutely blown away. I was like, the discounts that they're offering are massive, and the boats are still more expensive than they were 5 or 10 years ago with these massive discounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, so I came from my work history. I came from Milwaukee Tool. I was there for 5 years, and then I moved companies to a different industrial tool manufacturer, and we sold like automation to big manufacturing plants. So I got a chance to go tour Mercury Marine up in northern Wisconsin and see their state-of-the-art modern facility that they have, and it is wild, the things that they're doing. We kind of got to step behind the curtain and see some of the things they're coming out with and what they were currently working on, and it is amazing what they're doing. It's just the demand for them and the amount that they cost is unbelievable.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy. The material, the biggest thing is the economy kind of took a downturn, and then the materials to make those boats don't, get cheaper. They get more expensive over time. So
yeah, and people they still want all that super nice expensive gear. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, but my time will come. I've got a $3,500 Mercury tracker from 1998 with the 2-stroke 25 horse on the back that she gets the job done, man. I love that boat, and yeah, that's where I do all my marketing when I'm out on the lakes around here.
Yeah, it's funny is I started out, my bass fishing kind of accelerated, but I grew up fishing. So there's pictures of me in a car seat in the front of my dad's 17-foot Sylvan. Like it's old school. I always joke that I learned how to tie a polymer knot before I learned how to tie my shoes. Like it's one of those, like, I grew up that way, but we grew up doing like the trout salmon trolling deal, which Reaction Tackle has stuff in that line too. So I didn't even realize it, but I was telling my dad that I was having you on, and he was like, yeah, they make lead core. He's like, I use their lead core line for king salmon fishing. And I was like, oh, that's where the lead core that you guys. So it's funny, like he uses you guys have the steel like braid, I guess it's steel braid is what they call it, but it's like the steel fishing line. Like some of that stuff he uses for salmon fishing. So like I didn't realize that he'd been using Reaction Tackle stuff too.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier, like you didn't realize you were using Reaction Tackle products until you kind of did a deep dive. And we see that actually with a lot of people who are using our products, because the way, we do a lot of business on Amazon. We have quite a few, avenues of distribution, but Amazon is a main one that we have. And like you said, like you buy something because of price point, and then you check the reviews. Oh, they've got 15,000 5-star reviews. Like there must be something to this product, and it's affordable, and you see the credibility, and then you start building trust, and then you buy, and then you continue to buy. But you're not realizing really like the power of the brand until you have a conversation like this. And then you're like, oh, wow, you're across the country. Oh, you're shipping international. Oh, you've got a team of 10 and you're expanding like wildfire. Like this is truly a special time. And I think the Reaction Tackle brand and the name is going to become household pretty soon, if not within the next couple of years. And it's pretty cool.
I can tell you that the braid, so I don't like to disparage other companies, but what I've noticed is that, we'll just say competitors without saying a name, went from $14 a spool to $30, like overnight. And it didn't change. It's not any different than it was the last time I bought it. And I can buy 3 and 500 yard spools from Reaction. And like I said, that even that line that I returned and didn't like because of the color wearing off, that same line at 10-pound test, I buried Ned rigs into logs this big around and dragged them off the bottom and pulled my Ned rig out of the log and threw it like that. It's not like it's underpowered. It's not like it's weak. They have a secret sauce to be able to get the prices down, and that's a lot of my reels have Reaction Bright on them because I looked at the price point, the quality of it, and honestly, very few companies, in my opinion, have the variety of color. Like, and
Mhm.
color doesn't necessarily mean a lot to the bass fishing world because the funny part about fishing in bass fishing world is you're taught to hide the line more than anything. But the high visibility lines are actually really important. Like for me, all my finesse fishing is done with high visibility line because it's caught me so many more fish because you can see those slight ticks, that little bit of movement on the wire. And but then there's also like you guys have camo braid, you do fluorocarbon, you do mono, like you have everything that it's a one-stop shop for all of the products and everything in my opinion is lesser expensive but the same quality as the stuff that I was buying from the other brands. So why would I? And to be honest, not necessarily that it's you guys, but it is you guys. Is I can order it on Amazon and have it in my house in 2 days.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, I can go on an Amazon storefront, check out Reaction Tackle storefront, and pick up some Ned rigs, some bait, or no, not bait, some Ned rigs, some hooks, some sinkers, and braid, and have it all shipped to my house and save money at the same time. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
no-brainer to me.
Yeah, we really do have a world-class warehouse team in the back that is super duper dialed in. We just invested in a new scanning system that is going to make us even better. Um, just speaking to the quality of our employees, everybody cares. It's not just we're here to cash
Yeah.
a check. We're here, we're passionate. I feel like that's fairly consistent within the fishing industry, but not to name any competitor names or anything, but just, the ultra conglomerates that are acquiring and becoming these massive, massive businesses that it's all under one name, those are publicly held companies that are held accountable to their shareholders. And
Yep.
year over year, they need to increase their profits. So if it's not lowering prices or lowering cost of goods to source products, it's getting that money from their customers. So
Yep.
you naturally do see that progression in the industry. And, Reaction Tackle is able to keep our prices low because we're obviously a privately held family business we're super proud of. And when we say
Right.
family business too, like we stand by that. We have Chad is our owner. Chad's sister is the head of our operations. And then Chad's wife, Heather, is the head of our HR. So of the
Yeah.
10 employees, 3 are, yeah. Me and the email marketing person joined at the same time, and we were the only kind of outsiders that were joining. And, we've been fully accepted into the family of Reaction Tackle. But
Gotcha.
like you said, man, we've got a ton of products that we can offer that can, subsidize some of the other product categories that maybe don't sell as well as our braid or some of our more popular items. And that helps counteract raising any prices. Some companies don't have that. They've got 1 or 2 product categories and they
Yep.
have to, I don't blame them. They have to raise prices because the state of the economy. But our team is world class, man. We do I'm surrounded by some of the best employees I've ever worked with. And I worked at Milwaukee Tool that claims that they've got the best. So
Right.
I'm happy where I am.
And I will say, guys, having seen it firsthand, for you guys who are bank anglers, check out their backpacks. Bobby showed me that backpack that he got. That thing is like the most over-engineered backpack I've ever seen in my life. Like there's so many compartments, but the way they're laid out, they didn't just put a pocket to put a pocket. Like the way it's like shaped, you can tell like there was a fisherman's mindset on building that backpack. I guess is the best way to word it. Like you look at it and you're like, okay, I could definitely put this in here, and this is a perfect spot for this type of thing. And this is like you could literally like mentally pack out this thing, and it looked raw. I mean, Bobby had that thing loaded
Yeah.
with stuff, and
Yeah.
I mean, he keeps it in his kayak. He hooks it on the back of his seat and just fishes all day, and he just gets in and out of the backpack as he needs to. He said he was going to get rid of his tackle crate and just use the backpack.
Yeah. Yeah. He did say that. Obviously there's things with backpacks that have wear points and that have stress points, right on your shoulder straps. They have
Yep.
reinforced threads and all, the material, I believe, is 420D ripstop or 1200D PVC. I think it's a combination of both. So it's water resistant and it's ultra durable. And the layout is it makes a lot of sense. You know, it's been designed by fishermen. You know, Chad, he's our owner, but he is a bass fisherman through and through. He fished tournaments for the longest time. And, you know, people think that now that you work for a fishing company or you own a fishing company, all you do is fish. But I fished more not working here than I do now.
I can imagine, yeah.
But the backpack really is a great design. You know, the pockets make a lot of sense where they're located. There's plenty of them, and the utility of the backpacks is in a way where you can fit different things in there in each pocket, but you can also mix and match, and everything is fairly accessible. And it's a good looking bag.
It's cool.
I really like the color scheme of it a lot, and I like the matte finish too of the PVC
I was gonna say,
material.
the finish is like, it looks like it's like, I didn't touch it, but you can tell like by the looking of it that the texture of it's like a smooth material. It's not like a
Yeah.
rough. I don't know how to explain. It looked like a leather backpack, basically. Like
Yeah.
like it looks like that material almost. You know, like
It does kind of
I
look
didn't
like
touch
leather.
it.
Yeah, you touch it sometime.
Yeah, no, I
It's
was. So, it's funny because me and him went to go fishing in Vermont. Actually, he came up here. He's been trying to get me to go to. There's a reservoir that's in the southern part of the state that has like all state land around it. So it's like one of those places where you can kind of primitive camp, but they set up like a few places that have like kind of pre-made sites, but they don't have any, you know, facilities. He's been trying to get me to go for like last year. He talked about it too, and he finally just said, "Hey, let's meet up." So we got there, and it was 40 degrees and snowing, and the water temp was 38 degrees. So we ended up bailing pretty quickly, but he was kind of like showing me stuff, but we didn't really hang out and talk too long because it was one of those deals where I was like, "Yeah, I'm not. It's way too cold to be out here." But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's got an awesome truck overlanding setup. I've seen him make some videos. We've chatted about that in the past, but he's quite the outdoorsman. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's a good time. Did you guys make any good food or cook over the campfire or do anything like
we
that?
didn't do any of that because it was so cold. But my plan is actually to go back down there, and we're gonna do like an actual camp out at some point, just
Yeah.
when the weather. It was weird about it was at that location, which is 2 hours from my house, which I always joke, but like a fishing 2 hours is different than like going to see the family 2 hours. Like a 2 hour trip to go fishing is kind of like whatever, par for the course. But from my house to that reservoir, the air temperature dropped 15 degrees
Mm.
because of the elevation change. So we went from like, I was at my house at 40 degrees, got down there, it was like 30.
Yeah, it was probably moisture in the air too.
And it was literally snowing when we left. So it was like a totally different environment. So we were like, nah, but we were kind of scouting it out because we wanted to see if we could do like a overlanding kind of trip, you know.
Yeah.
So go down, because I've done it where I went to Mass with him a couple of times where I just slept in the back of my F-150, like in the
Nice.
back seat.
Yeah. Oh,
You can
gotcha.
do it. It's tricky, but you can do it. I'm actually going to be probably modifying my tunnel cover on my truck. So what I'm going to do is actually raise it up by putting like boards around it so I can get a little bit more clearance. And then I think I'm just going to sleep in the back of my truck.
Yeah.
Throw like
Yeah.
a regular like foam pad back there, and then I can crash back there. So that way we can do some of the like stealth camping stuff that he likes to do. So
Yeah, I've got a 2021 Toyota Tacoma off-road, and I put a soft topper on the back. I got a Rhino rack on the top just for extra storage, and I've got a lot of plans. It just seems like they're ever-ending plans. I want to get a lift system for it, but right now, so we recently have been chatting with Proficiency rod combos.
okay.
We think it's a really good opportunity to partner with them because you know, we have such a wide variety of different colors of line, and it's really a wow factor. And
Really cool looking rods.
yeah, they've got some good looking rods, and they're good performance. But the best part is our target market is almost identical. So
Yep.
we have been chatting for some time. I've been chatting with one of their lead content creators there, and I think that we're going to be working together, whether that be creating content together, sharing resources, something in some capacity.
Yep.
So with that being said, I'm expecting a shipment of Proficiency rods and combos, and I'm thinking about how to store them in my truck. So
Yeah, it's tricky.
how do you like if you have 5 rods, do you have like
That's
a 4 inch?
efficiency right there.
Oh, right on. Nice.
The David Dudley I got when they're spinning rods too. So what I did,
Nice.
see, I have a trailer. So I actually took an old pop-up camper and modified it into a kayak trailer.
Oh, okay.
So I had a
Nice.
pop-up camper that all the fiberglass rotted. So we ended up just stripping it right down to the frame, and I built basically a utility trailer. But what I did in my truck, which you could probably do with yours too, is you build a wooden rod box. So what you do is you build like you take one of the like the wall mounts.
Mhm.
You take those and you screw it down to a piece of plywood, and then you use like a 2x6 frame and you build around it so that you can make it an enclosed box. That way, if you have like a kayak, you can literally just put everything right on top of it. Your rods are protected by that box. You can slide stuff. Basically, you make like a box inside of your bed that gives you like a shelf to put other stuff on top of.
My bed's not that big. I got a 5.5 foot bed, so that's where I struggle because all the combos are
Yeah.
going to be 7.1, 7.2s. So I'm half debating whether I make some sort of a side mounted that's taller than my bed that they can stick out the back.
So what some guys do is I can't remember the dimension of it, but they use like an 8-inch or 9-inch like pipe, like drainage pipe.
Yep.
What they do is they inside of it you actually attach smaller diameter pipe around the circle, and you put it far enough in where you put your rod through that, where your rod butts and everything will go against the back of it, and then they make a screw-in cap, and then you could take that and they actually like basically mount it off to the side of their. You can put the
Mm,
stakeouts in the side of your truck bed. You could put those into the pipe and then set them in your stakeout so they become like this tube that comes off of your. So then that way
yeah.
you're going to stick out beyond, but because the PVC is so rigid, it's going to hold everything and it's light enough where you're not adding. Because like a box on the side of a truck bed, like your truck, that's a lot of weight if you make it out of wood because
Yeah.
those trucks don't weigh a lot to begin with. So you're
Mhm.
adding a lot of weight on that frame. But yeah, there's a lot of like if you YouTube, a lot of guys have made like these little rod. There's a company called Rod Tube that makes them, but they're
Okay.
like exorbitantly expensive. And essentially, it's just basically a glorified PVC pipe tube. If you use like rod sleeves, which Reaction Tackle sells, you can actually just put like I think it's like they say you can fit like 4 or 5 rods in a tube,
All
and
right.
then you basically have like a screw-in cap, and then it just sets on. That way, you can set it on there and then take it off when you don't
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah, I got to figure out something pretty quick here. The weather in Wisconsin's been unbelievable. It's been 60s and 70s the last couple of days, and it's going to continue to get either hold steady as nice as this and probably get even nicer. Obviously, our summers get quite hot. We get 80s, 90s in humidity, peak
Yeah.
summer. In at least where I am in northern Wisconsin, it's a little bit cooler, closer to the border of Canada. But we get pretty decent weather here in Wisconsin, and we have a wealth of lakes. Obviously, it's like largemouth bass heaven up here in Smalley heaven, and we got pike. So it's a lot of fun up here. It's where are
What's your
you
what's
in
your
Indiana?
no, I'm in Vermont actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so what's your target species?
So I started fishing. I'm 30 now. I started fishing when I was 16, and I fished for catfish actually.
Okay.
And my target species now is largemouth bass. I was a wacky rig fanatic. That was all I would do because wacky rigging pretty much can deliver a bass whenever. For me, at least, I got into a good rhythm, and I really wasn't chasing a trophy bass. It was more for just getting out, getting fresh air, and enjoying kind of taming nature and getting a hook in every now and again. But now I still love largemouth bass, but I am definitely going after more of trophy bass now.
Yep.
And you spoke about the underbelly, screw lock hooks, and I've had some tremendous success with our tungsten versions of those. We have lead and we have tungsten.
Yep.
And the tungsten specifically, I was using a 4/0 3/16 with just 3.5, 4-inch swim bait on the back and crushing. By the way, I've never used that presentation before of a swim bait with that type of hook and bait presentation. So I was doing
Sneaky.
some live streaming. It's sneaky, but it's so much fun because you cast it out, you retrieve it, you pause a little bit here and there, but it's a really straightforward method that can deliver some really good fish. Like,
The beauty
and
of it too is it's you can fish it anywhere. You don't
anywhere.
have it's weedless. What I do with it sometimes is not even like you're not even fishing it like a paddle tail. You literally take it and throw it up to grass edges and let it fall like your Texas rigging.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
just drop it right down the front of a grass edge. Because of the belly weight that it causes, that tail creates the resistance and it makes that fish to swim down slow. And then when you pop your rod, they come up, but because your hook point is on the front, it comes up and then it goes back down. It doesn't with like a swim bait head, it dives straight down and it almost goes too fast. Whereas that creates more of a glide. It's more like that hover strolling technique that's becoming super popular. It's the same kind of
Mm-hmm.
concept. I didn't realize that that's the one thing that I actually started doing some research when I started talking to you about it because I didn't realize you guys made the tungsten ones until I found those yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there is like Massachusetts, like where Bobby is, they can't use lead at all. We can use it as long as it's attached to the hook. So like you can't
Gotcha.
use like sinkers here. You can't anything under an ounce because we have loons and the stupid loons eat it, which
Stupid
is literally
loons.
the reason for the law. So the stupid loons will eat the lead sinkers and then poison themselves with lead. So, but anything with a hook, we can use lead. But still, tungsten has its advantages because of its size. It's a little bit smaller because you're getting the same weight because it's denser. You're getting a better, and honestly, it's a little bit more durable. Like if you slap that into a rock, that lead's gonna. I don't care what company you're getting it from. It's gonna chip. It's gonna dent. It's lead. It's soft. Whereas that tungsten, you can give it a little bit more abuse, and it's gonna take a little bit more because it's such a harder material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a lot of tungsten. Not a lot of people realize
Yeah.
it, but once you start digging into the website and Amazon, you realize that we also have a #1 selling on Amazon mushroom Ned head rig, a
Yep.
tungsten mushroom Ned head rig.
No one
That
makes
is
those.
unbelievably popular.
Yep.
And that's one that we actually get a ton of brand recognition from. I've been going out and partnering with local bass clubs and showing up and handing out free spools of line and just chatting with the anglers. And I would say, but our braid people talk about, but then it's our mushroom net head rigs, our
Yep.
tungsten. Like
Yep.
it's that presentation crushes, and we can offer it to where any line's going to break. Any line's going to break. You're going to lose your bait at the end. But we allow that. If you lose $17, chatterbait jackhammer, that
Yep.
sucks. That sucks
Yeah.
to lose a $15 to $20 bait. Some people are losing $100 baits.
Yep.
But if you lose one of ours, we subside that sting a little bit. We make it hurt a little bit less because you can pick up another pack and get it in a day, 2 days. So we do have a wide variety of tungsten between weights and hooks.
Yeah, like the nail weights. Like that was the other thing is like so I was actually when I was at the Dick's Sporting Goods this weekend. The thing is like they were selling like 5 nail weights for what you guys are selling like I think it was like a 20 pack or something. You guys, I don't remember what the quantity was, but it was a substantial pack of nail weights, and they're
Yeah.
tungsten.
Yeah,
You guys are almost selling tungsten for what you got to buy lead ones for. Almost. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's not that doesn't point to quality. That points to operational efficiency, how we manage the business
Yep.
and our growth trajectory and how we consciously want to price our products. We could charge more. We definitely could do that.
Good. Yeah.
Things are working great. Our customers are super duper happy. We're taking over quite a bit of market share in a wide variety of product categories. So we're not stopping. We're going to keep bringing newer, better products to the market. And we're not we've got 2 backpacks back here, but we're going to keep coming out with more different ones that fit different areas within that storage space. And when it comes to, you spoke to it earlier, but like it's not just bass fishermen. Like we offer lead core. We have steel line now. We have tin coated copper line. We have 16 strand hollow core that is wildly popular on the coasts for shark anglers and surf fishermen. And yeah, we started as a bass fishing company and things have expanded into kind of a one-stop shop. And that's the ultimate goal, is for Reaction Tackle to kind of be your one area where that you can trust the products. You can get basically whatever you want for a really great price. And you can work with some really friendly Wisconsin people.
That's honestly my favorite part about it. Being from Vermont, like we have that local community, homegrown. There's a lot of those businesses, but that let's be honest, the fishing industry doesn't have that as much as it used to. A lot of those smaller companies got bought up, or you know, the pandemic killed a lot of small businesses because they just couldn't keep up. But that's when I found it, because I was talking to Bobby about it, and I was like, I didn't realize like a lot of the story, but he told me like he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just like a husband and wife that owns it that just started a company, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, because I'm the type of person that, like, don't get me wrong, I mean, obviously, I buy the big brands too,
Oh yeah.
but like I don't necessarily care. I'm not the type of guy that's gonna not buy Berkeley because it's Berkeley. I'm gonna buy what is good and what I've had success with. And that's it's like I said, it sounds negative to say that to the guy whose job is to get the name out, but like I was buying Reaction Tackle the whole time and didn't realize that it was all the same brand, but I was buying the stuff because I was like, "Man, this braid's really good. Let's go check out what these hooks are about, because these are just
Yep.
like the ones that I was buying, but they're cheaper and they look like the same thing." And then I got them and fished with them, and I'm like, "These are just as sharp, just as strong. I catch the same fish in the same areas that I was catching with the other baits." And I was like, "Okay, what else do these guys have?" And then I started looking at it, and then like I said, I talked to Bobby, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm pro staff for them." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "I had no idea," because I knew they, like, he, obviously promotes it on the channel, but he promotes a lot of companies that he's not necessarily pro staff from. It's just he's promoting it on the podcast. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Well, listen, this
guys
is a
have
business. This is a business. We're obviously emotionally tied to this. We care a lot about the business. We care about the
right,
trajectory and what we're doing, but we know that this is a business and it's a competition. So
yep,
we fully understand that people buy products based on their performance, the price point, the brand image, how much a company can get out into the spotlight, and how that brand can make a person feel, even if it's not the best product. A brand can make somebody feel a certain way, and that's a big part of the reason that I am here today, uh, and here employed, is because I brought that up to the owners, and I said, this is still a very young company, and it's kind of a sneaky, under the radar company, and I think
yep,
we need to step out in the spotlight. We need to get more
yep,
media attention. We need to start more conversations, and this brand has some amazing potential to be a super, young, cool, hip company, right? Like, we're now on TikTok, we're doing all social media platforms, and the goal is, when you see my face, Reaction Tackle is coming, and we're coming with new products, and products that are high quality and are very affordable. So we're taking all the right steps. The owners have all the right, obviously I would say this because it's my job, but
I mean, I
I think
brought you
they
on the
made the right
podcast
decision.
because of the brand. Like I said,
Yeah.
that's one of the things is I will tell you right now, like my goal is not to be a professional YouTuber. I do YouTube because it's a hobby. I love fishing. I like educating people on how to catch fish, how to do it on a budget. Honestly, like I said, I was at Dick's Sporting Goods, and a 10-year-old walked up to me and literally said to me, which shocked me, but it just goes to show you how the social media world works. A 10-year-old walked up to me and goes, "What's your thought on poppers?" And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I didn't even know what a popper was at 10 years old. I was still using bobber and worm at that age. And I walked around that store with him for about half an hour, just showing him different things that I use and those belly weighted hooks and things like that. And that's what it's about for me, is just getting, like, showing people that you don't have to buy insert brand name here to catch fish. If you find a brand that you like that performs and it's less expensive, that's even better. Like that's the whole thing. And that's why, honestly, like I said, part of my motivation for bringing you on was to help try to get Reaction Tackle in front of my followers, because I buy a lot of their stuff, and even I, as someone who spends a lot of money in the fishing industry, didn't realize that a lot of the stuff that was my favorite brands were, I mean, I knew the braid because the braid's pretty well branded as Reaction Tackle, but I didn't realize the hooks I was buying were Reaction Tackle, and I want to try to do my part to share that and be like, guys, these hooks work. This tungsten works. These different products are available, and you don't have to spend as much money and get the exact same quality, if not better, than what you were getting from, insert brand name
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just want to say that that 10-year-old at Dick's, kudos to him because you're just seeing more and more kids becoming more introverted
Yeah.
because of social media. Social anxieties, prevent kids from even talking to certain people. So for him to come up to you in a fishing store, uh, asking questions that he can get educated on and take the next steps, like that's I've got an 18-month-old daughter and I just obviously she's still very young, but I
Yeah.
just think about what the future holds and like how I want to raise her. And yeah, I guess long story short, kudos to that little boy, and kudos to you for
It's
helping him
funny, is
out.
the YouTube world, being a social media guy yourself, like that's the one thing though, is like, I almost feel a responsibility. Like that kid that was talking to me, like his dad kept apologizing, or his grandfather. I guess it was his grandfather, but he's like, "I'm sorry," and I'm like, "No, dude." This kid's like, "Well, what do you think about this?" And he's like, he's asking not just questions. Like he literally started the question with, what is a popper? Like, how do I fish this? So clearly he learned a little bit about it, but then he was asking me about specific species, and he's like, well, I prefer braid over mono. What are your thoughts on that? Like, but this is a 10-year-old asking these questions. This wasn't, a grown man that was asking this stuff. And like you said, it's all about, if I can help a kid, not, and I'm a gamer. I'm sitting in front of a gaming PC. Like I'm not, I'm both. I work in the tech industry. I work for a software company, but being able to enjoy the outdoors, get outside, disconnect from electronics, and be able to just have that time on the water is been invaluable for me. Like I sit in an office all day long working tech support stuff. On the weekends, I am out. I mean, granted, I have cameras and everything for YouTube, but I'm on the water. I'm out there for 8 or 10 hours, and it's just my me time. And I want more kids to be able to, experience that. And YouTube is the way to get that information out there. These kids can learn. I mean, honestly, Ben Milliken did a lot for the sport that people don't even realize, because he got a lot of kids. The Guggen squad, people that disparage the Guggens, but guess what, guys? I'm sitting here on the internet talking to you because guys like the Guggens paved the way to make YouTube fishing mainstream. And it's the way to get brands that you wouldn't hear about otherwise out in front of people. Because, let's be honest, the big companies of the world have way bigger marketing budget, and they can stuff their logo on your face 1,000 times in a minute. Whereas, companies like Reaction Tackle, they have to use what they can. But that's why I try to bring people on. I try to
Yeah,
bring people on my podcast that are like, this is a brand I like. This is something that I use, and I want more people to learn about it, because everybody wins. Everybody gets to
yeah.
learn about something. I get to talk to people on the internet, and Reaction gets to get a few more people that maybe consider buying your braid or your tungsten hooks or any of that stuff. So everybody wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, right on. Even us, right? We get to have a good time, spend an hour together.
Exactly. And that's, dude,
Yeah.
honestly, the whole podcast thing for me is funny, because it started because, and from being where you are, a lot of people I talk to on here are from the South. So like Daniel, and actually I can give you some contact information. So he has a friend that runs a kayak magazine, and they do, subscription, and they feature different products and brands and stuff like that. So it'd be a good little
Nice.
way to get you guys involved in that. But he's from Georgia, so like all these guys are from the South, and they don't understand what it's like once December hits, and then all of a sudden your fishing goes from, do I really want to go fishing, or I can't go fishing because there's skim ice and there's this not.
Yeah.
And I'm not huge on the ice fishing game. I've kind of gotten back into it recently because of the content side, but it's a lot of stuff to haul out onto the water to try to catch some perch digging through a hole on a plastic shed. But
Yeah, yeah, it is. And Wisconsin had a very weird winter. We very warm. Our you had to go to northern Wisconsin to get thick enough ice to actually get out and
yep,
fish. You had people out in lakes around me fishing basically the whole year. They were out
yep,
in late December. They were out in January. The ice came in a little bit and then it broke, and then people got out like late January. It was bizarre. it was very, very weird. People from Wisconsin were traveling out of state. They were going to like North Dakota to go ice fishing. Everybody
Yep.
was just Jones in northern Wisconsin. They were like, I gotta get out. I
And
gotta
that's
get out.
crazy too, because like, I mean, I know Vermont is definitely a fishing, like ice fishing state, but Wisconsin's like the, if there was a podium of like places known for like pulling big pike through the ice and stuff, it's Wisconsin. Like that's where you
Yeah.
see all those videos of guys pulling monsters through ice holes is up there. So we
Yeah.
had the same thing, and that's the thing is I'm not willing to. I, we fished for like if it's less than 4 inches ice, I'm not going, and even that's
Fair enough.
like depending on the conditions, but like we didn't really get ice until February. Like
Mm.
was safe. I mean, you could go, but you were kind of being really, really picky about where you went and how far offshore you went, and you could only go to certain bodies of water because, like you said, there was places where it may have been 6 inches on shore and 2 inches once you got off the shore, so it wasn't really even worth it. So
Yeah, we had some issues with we had several companies that take you out on like their little shuttle buses. I guess they're
yep,
called shuttles, but they're like designed for ice and being out on the snow.
yep,
And you pay them as experts to take you out, and you trust them with your life. And they fell through, and a bunch of people died
yep,
in northern Minnesota two
yep,
times this winter, and it really makes it like you just gotta be smart. Not every,
yep.
it's difficult when there's subject matter experts and you're like, okay, they know better than I would know, but no one's perfect. And yeah, you just gotta be safe out there. It was a tough winter for the majority of the country. It was just a weird, not tough in sense of like it was frigid cold. It was the opposite, but like it was just tough for the sport.
Well, what it was, I think, too, was the warm cold, warm cold. So what happens is it creates that like you get like solid ice, but then you get like a little melt. So then it's got a soft
Yeah.
layer. And it creates that honeycomb ice. It's 6 inches of ice, sure. Yeah, you drill your auger through, yeah, it's 6 inches, but it's really not 6 inches because there's air pockets and there's portions of that ice that isn't really actually solid. So then it creates all these weird pressure cracks and this unstable environment that's probably what happened is you look at it, you drill a hole, and you're like, yeah, look, dude, there's 8 inches of ice here, but then 3 feet to the right, it could be 2 inches because of the way everything melts and flows. A lot of
Yeah.
around here too, a lot of the places that like Lake Champlain is, obviously the bucket list, fishery for Vermont. And I know guys, like you said, that were fishing, like they were posting in our Facebook groups, they were posting smallie photos in like January that they were in their bass boat. They were out there with their outboards catching smallies in January in
Yeah,
Vermont.
it's
Like
weird.
that's usually you're pulling pike, perch, and smelt, and you're not really even trying for bass anymore because you can't catch them. And those guys are out there open water fishing in bass boats.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about winter is like it gives you a chance to miss open water. It gives you a chance to, that's why people love the seasons in the Midwest and even like where you are. It
Yep.
gives you a chance to get some distance and then really have that finer appreciation for the sport and the unique things that each season offers. But so Reaction Tackle, we offer ice fishing gear as well. We have some jigs, and then we've got fluorocarbon, mono, and braid. And let's just say Canada was definitely a good a support system for this winter.
Imagine, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
The guy I had
but
on when you joined in, he's actually from Montreal. He's like my, I guess, brother channel. So I actually met him through this podcast. He was the first guy that was willing to come on and just talk on the internet with me about fishing. And he kind of became my co-host for a little while, and we do some collaborations. But he's from Montreal, and even up there, he does this like annual Canadian trip with a bunch of his friends, and like he got to go once because they're even up there. It wasn't even that good of ice. Like the ice quality overall everywhere was just insane. It got to the point where I know guys that were literally spanning open water with plywood because they were trying to get to like, and I'm like, no, dude, like I like fishing, but like you said, sometimes it's nice to like, I like having a little bit of an off season. I actually personally would want more fishing time just from the content side, but at the same time, like you said, you do have that like there is nothing like having that first open water fish. Like getting out in my kayak and catching that first open water bass brings you back to the first bass you ever caught, or that
Yep.
first big bass, or that first big fish in general. Like when you get that like 3 month, 4 month window where you just can't fish and you're just doing the grind of getting through work and everything, and then
Yeah.
you finally can get on the water and you're finally out there and you're probably freezing your butt off because you're out there probably too early anyways, and you feel that tug on that line, man. Like you said, it's like a whole, it reinvigorates the addiction all over again every time.
Yeah, it's like you become a different person. It's like you have your winter self and then you've got your spring, early season self that you can take a big deep breath and be like, I'm back.
Yep.
I'm back and I'm ready for the season. And it kind of gives, obviously with the weather changing, people get seasonal depression and, having longer days certainly helps with that. But something about getting out on the water for that first time
Yep.
is so refreshing. And it really is just like changing gears, and it's like hope, it's like there's hope.
It's funny because, like I said, for me, I work in an office all day. So, and I work with like, software developers. Like we make a e-sign platform as one of our main products, and we do check processing. So we're part of a bank, QSO, but we make software for banks. So like I'm working with like customer service people and tech people. I'm not working with. There's only one other guy in my whole company that like hikes. He doesn't even fish. So like
Gotcha.
no one fishes at my company. So like none of them understand my, oh, the ice melted yesterday. I'm going to go fishing this weekend because ice out happened and the water's 37 degrees and I'm going to bundle up in my float bibs and try to go fishing. And for me, fishing is like my Prozac. Like you said, it's like it's the way to reset, to get through, grind through Monday through Friday. Saturday morning, I get up early, I load the boat, and I just reset, and I get to just be part of nature for 8 hours, and then
Yeah.
you can go back to work on Monday. But at the end of the course of the weekend is where I get that centering moment where you're fishing, and that's, I think, the Northeast and North part of the country kind of has that appreciation more, because I will admit, like if I lived in the South, I don't know if I would love fishing the way I do, because I could just go any day of the week.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's different. There is winter, but it's not. You still can fish. Like the worst temperatures in the South are spring. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things you get acclimated to it and then you're like, "Oh man, this is cold." It's 60 degrees in winter and you're like,
Yep.
freezing in Florida. But I think if doctors started prescribing the outdoors instead of Xanax so much, the country would definitely be in a
Yep.
better place, because the outdoors is definitely a healing thing. The sounds of birds chirping out there, the sound of moving water. It's something your body was made to uh
Oh, there's
made
nothing that
one
will
with.
make
You
your hair
understand
stand
it.
up better than like peepers at night, or where I fish. One of my main lakes, like my what I call my home lake, is loaded with bullfrogs.
Nice.
So in the morning, that bow, bow, bow,
Yeah.
like that's the sound of home in my mind. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those, like it's like your soundtrack. Like the difference between work life and personal life is the sound of peepers, the sound of geese, the sound of bullfrogs.
Yeah, yeah. I think don't they call them like swamp singers or something
Yep,
singers? We have it's the 7th year, so it's cicada season all across the country, I guess. And
yep.
I just saw a news article in Alabama or Georgia. A bunch of people were calling the police because they
Really.
were freaking out because the cicadas were so loud. They thought there was like some sort of an emergency. But we haven't had too much of that in Wisconsin. I don't know if you guys on the coast have seen that too much or heard it.
I've never really seen it or heard it. I know I talked to Alex Rudd a lot, and he
Mm,
has they had like a there's like apparently like every few years there's like a huge hatch of them,
mhm.
and it happened down there, and because he was doing a bunch of videos on it about how, like, the bass eat the crap out of them, because
Sure.
bass. I mean, that's the one thing that's funny is like Vermont is mostly trout guys. So like they know about like what bugs and stuff like that fish eat, because trout are more about eating insects and larvae than they are actual fish and bait and stuff like that. But we don't really have a lot of that up here. So I was watching that video, kind of getting some ideas on like bait ideas, because I pour my own plastics, and I was thinking about trying to like prototype some stuff like that, and like I guess cicadas, like I guess it came a couple companies came out with like a cicada bait because like bass were like destroying them
I wouldn't
because they're
surprise me.
eating them right off the wall because they're falling out of trees and they're just in the water and the bass are just
Yeah.
shoveling them. So
Yeah, I was in northern Wisconsin fishing the Flambeau River, and it was there's like a 2 day period where mayflies come out, and it's like it's snowing outside. They're
yeah,
so. I was out on a kayak and I was fishing. We went out and then it was getting darker outside, and it was almost like it was almost like a horror movie. It was almost
yeah,
like I don't know how to explain it, but it was kind of scary until I realized what exactly was happening. And then my father-in-law informed me that this happens, and it's a rare occurrence that you can catch it and be out on the water when you're out there. But uh, it's unlike anything I've ever been a part of. It was literally like a snowstorm I was stuck in out on the water, and I can't imagine there's plenty of fish on that river, and it was crashing left and right, just jumping out,
yeah.
snatching all these mayflies. But it was pretty special to be out there to see that.
That's honestly what I love about like the content creation. Some of the best stuff I've filmed wasn't fishing. It was
Yeah.
like one day I had a beaver jump off of a bank because I was too close to his den. Like he was like swimming around me, slapping his tail, trying to get me away from his home. Like I've had like geese chase me down because I
Oh
was
man,
babies. They're aggressive, man.
sassy geese. Yeah,
they're
it's fun to run into. It's kind of cool to have a beaver encounter though. They're cool animals with their big tails. I was watching Meat Eater, and I think he had a beaver issue, so he was trapping beavers, and he said at one point the beaver pelt was one of the most valued items in
yep.
the United States due to its just warmth, and it's people on the East Coast were super wealthy estates were buying up all these beaver pelts because they were like the Louis Vuitton of,
Yep.
you know.
Guys still trap them up here. It's
Really?
still a thing up here. Yeah. So my grandfather owns a campground, and he actually hired a guy because the beavers kept like killing all his trees, and so he
Yeah.
ended up hiring a guy to get rid of them. And they're trapping. They still sell them, but they're not. You're not making. You're not getting rich selling beaver pelts anymore. You still can sell them, but what's cool about Vermont is like we have a lot of our lakes are in state forest, so they're national forest around them. So it's kind of untouched and it's not allowed to be touched. So you get a lot of like it's nothing to go like down a bank and see a deer drinking water from the lake you're in, or see like the loons are one of the big things because they're endangered. So you have to kind of stay away from them because you think the geese are aggressive. Go around loons during mating season. They are some nasty birds.
You make me not want to.
Dude, you should Google. I'll send you a video. So they swim like this when they're intimidated. So like
Mm.
they will literally land on the water and then they'll take their wings and they'll like Michael Phelps it and they'll fly across the water and they'll circle you. And they're trying to intimidate you because they don't want you in their area.
Wow. Master of
It's
the butterfly stroke, huh?
It's the weirdest. They are the fastest thing you've ever seen on the water. You would not expect them to be able to move that fast. And they take off and they just chase each other around and they like swim around you and stuff. And but they'll hiss at you.
Yeah.
You ever had a goose hiss at you?
Oh yeah.
Dude, they have that same kind of sound, which is weird coming from the loon that has a pretty iconic song to it. When you hear them hiss, you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, wait, why are you making that noise? But
What is the sound does a loon make again?
so they have it's hard to like pretty much any nature show that ever starts with that, like it's like a high pitched, it's almost like an elk call. It
Oh, I
has like
thought
that
that
high pitched call.
is it like a
Kind of, yeah.
All right. All right.
I
I
can
think I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's hard. I couldn't even do it justice, but like
I was trying
they
to
have
get you to sound off on one.
there's no way I could do it. I will yell at them on the water. Like I've been known to like sit there and talk to geese on the water, but
Okay. Yeah, why
because
not?
I'll try to get their attention because sometimes they'll go away because like I've had them follow me around because when you're fishing, sometimes I think they're using me to find food.
Sure. Yeah.
Because some of the small lakes that I fish, they literally will like you'll look and they'll be behind you, and then you'll move up, and then they'll kind of follow you. Like they see you catching bass, so they know that there's food there, so they just kind of tail behind you and let you do all the work. It's kind of
I
interesting to have
I just
that.
I just saw an awesome video of a charter down in Boca Raton, Florida. They had a bunch of just fish in the pills in their boat, and this pelican was swarming. It was sitting on top of the bow of the boat, and it was cruising. And then this boat slowed down, and then it circled back around. Pelican lands on the back of the boat, and then the guy's just chilling back there, just tossing fish to the
Yep.
pelican. And he's like, and it was somebody shooting it. Then that had talked to the person. And he's like, yeah, this guy, this is the same pelican every time. He like knows it's like his buddy.
Yeah,
It's
so
awesome.
the only interaction I've ever had like that is my home lake. There's a snapping turtle that's the size of a manhole cover, like
Ooh, yeah,
massive
it's a big
thing.
boy.
And I think he does it to screw with people. But like if you're in a kayak, he'll just pop up next to you. I don't know if you ever seen how like a snapper turtle, like they just stop like keeping themselves in the bottom and they just pop up. So you're in a plastic boat in the middle of
Yeah,
the water, and then you just see this manhole cover monster just pop up, and it just looks at you, and it just stares at you, and then it just swims away.
yeah, they're
The thing does it
crazy.
to me. Like I've had it happen. I honestly think it remembers me because I actually interrupted its meeting one time and had no idea that that's what it was doing, because I saw it out in the middle of the water and it was at a weird angle and it was just floating. And I was like, I wonder if it's dead or what's going on. So I went up to it in my boat and then realized there was two of them. And basically, I cock blocked a turtle because it pissed and started chasing my boat, and it literally clamped on the back of my boat and was trying to get in my boat with me. And since that day, every once in a while, I'll come into certain little bays and this thing will pop up and stare at me, almost like it remembers because the thing follows me. And
Yeah,
it's like there's a bunch of videos where you see me go like because I'm just like,
yeah.
what the hell just happened?
You would
It's
remember if
never
someone
like
did that to you. You'd remember that person for life.
exactly, and it's never like been vicious other than that one
Yeah,
day. Other than that, it just kind of pops up and looks at me and then swims off, and I'm like, I
that's
don't,
terrifying. He's
and
got your
it's weird.
number. He's
Well, yeah, and he could. I mean, those things are so powerful that he probably could bite through my kayak. Like their jaws, their bite force is insane. So
yeah, it's cool. I've seen some videos of them just chomping down on hot dogs. I mean, that's nothing. You know, they'll chomp through. They can bite through bone.
yeah,
Keep your fingers
yeah,
away from them.
that's the closest to like a gator experience that I'm ever going to get in the Northeast because those things could flip my kayak and start tearing me up before I could get to shore. And there ain't much I'm gonna be able to do about it. But
With all the national parks you have around your lakes, do you have a lot of bald eagles by you swooping down, grabbing fish out of your lakes?
so
That's an
that's
epic experience.
it is. So a lake near me, it's actually up by a ski resort in Killington, Vermont, and there is a it's like I want to say the area around the lake is state land, and they stock it with rainbows. So there's a campground across the road, and they probably shouldn't even stock this place because I think the deepest point of it's like 20 feet. So like the rainbows don't really survive real well there because the water's 65, 70 degrees by midsummer. So those trout are kind of living the hard life there.
Mhm.
But they will in the morning, this place has such a consistent like bald eagle pattern that they put benches at the boat ramp, and people from the campground will come down at daylight and sit in these benches and just watch the eagles come down
Yeah.
and pick trout. And I actually, the first time I experienced it, I didn't know it. I had found this lake on our fishing game site, and the thing is this is a trout lake, right? But it has so many bass in it that they increased the limit. So normal state limit here is 3 fish. They increased the limit to 5 because they want to get the bass out of there because there's so many of them.
Okay.
So I went there to fish for bass, and I saw a school of trout, and I could see like the water swirling and it was moving, and you could tell like there was just a lot of little like trout just all swimming around. So my mind as a bass fisherman is I'm going to come in behind this and dink and dunk it with a wacky rig and a small paddle tail to try to either catch a trout or hook a bass interested in this school. And I was totally focused on following this like rippling water, and then I felt wind on my face, and I look up, and it's like the National Geographic classic, like claws out, bald eagle comes down, scoops up a trout, and bail. At that time, I didn't have a camera. Now I have two. I have one behind me and one in front of me. That's partially why I now have two cameras, because I didn't get any of that. All I got was me freaking out, and no one could see why on camera. But this thing literally came down, claws out, grabbed the trout off the surface of the water, and flew back up to its tree. And it was like, you don't realize how big a bald eagle is until you come that close to you, and you're like, wow.
There are very few things that make me feel like more of a proud, outstanding American than seeing a bald eagle swoop down and seeing it spread its massive
Yeah.
wings open with its talons sprawled out, snatch something out of the water, and then fly off so majestically.
And they're moving. Like, that is not like, they are coming in hot, and they do it like, I mean, obviously it's like life for them, but it's just amazing the grace of how it just comes down, flaps its wings once, drops its feet, and now it's got a fish in its claws and it's heading back to the tree. And I'm like,
All the great ones make it look easy.
It's ridiculous.
And they make it look like it's so calm and so peaceful. And it's just like, yeah, just another day at the office.
And what's cool is, like I said, I was in a kayak. I was literally, this thing came at me. I had no idea. It's not like it's a loud, like, they're so stealthy. Like, I literally felt it as its wings were close enough to me to feel the wind off of them, and then look up and see this bird, and then just like have it turn around and leave. Like, no big deal. I didn't care that I'm in a 10-foot plastic boat in the middle of the water. I was irrelevant to that thing. It was like, I got food and you're in my way, so move.
I saw an inspirational meme with the bald eagle. There are birds that will like attach themselves to the back of a bald eagle and like nip at its neck, and then the bald eagle doesn't fight it. It just starts climbing. It goes up and up and up, straight up, until the bird that is trying to like grab its neck can't like breathe anymore, and then the bird just falls off, and then the bald eagle just cruises back down. It's calm, steady. The bald eagle it's a good looking bird.
They're cool.
Very
cool.
Cool.
There's a lot of them at that we have a lot of them here anyways. Like, there's a lot of places where like we have still like wooden power poles in a lot of places in Vermont. Like,
we do too.
They refuse to do like metal here, and there's a lot of places like when they move them or they fail, they have to like leave the pole because there's eagle nests in them. Like, they'll form on top of them. So there's a lot of places where like the nests, they like literally just have to relocate the pole because it's got like this whole huge eagle nest on top of it. So you just see these random poles out in the middle of fields where there used to be power lines that have eagle nests in them.
See, there's a lot of things I disagree with my taxpayer money going to, but hey, you want to relocate a power pole with a bald eagle's nest on it, take my money.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Do you do a lot of fishing out of state, or do you primarily stay in Vermont?
I've started to do a lot more. Last year I was doing down by Bobby, actually, the Massachusetts. I do tournament fishing down there, so I joined the MAKB trail that they plug on their podcast a lot. I did the whole season, but it got to the point where, I was getting up for a 5:30 captain's meeting, 3.5-hour drive to the ramp. So I was leaving my house at like 1:30 to get down there to fish till 3 and then drive 3.5 hours home. So I'm doing Slay Nation now here in Vermont. They finally got a trail here, so we're doing that. But I do travel. Like, I go to upstate New York a lot. I'm actually thinking about doing a Maine trip at some point, because Maine, like you said, that's another one of those, like, you want to get even more rural than Vermont, you go to Maine, and that's where you can do a lot of like overlanding, and there's just up in streams and lakes that you're just there. Like, there's nothing there but nature at that point. So
that sounds amazing. I've always wanted to make my way to upstate New York in particular. I don't have any interest to really of going to the Big Apple, but the rural parts of New York look unbelievably beautiful. I'm a kayak bass fisherman myself, so I've taken a personal interest in supporting that community. I've been chatting with Chad Hoover for quite some time. I just sent him a bunch of our braid for kayak bass fishing, his organization KBF. But if you guys are Reaction Tackle, the best way for us to make a customer or an angler a believer is for you guys to try our braid, and we do have and offer, partnerships with bass, not just bass, but any organization that has, whether you're local or national trail, opportunities to partner with us to offer discounts or free giveaways or to support tournaments on a one-off basis. So if you're interested in any of your organizations you're involved with, just hit me up and we can do something together.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I think I want to say I saw something that Bobby was talking about on his podcast about the braid stuff, and like that's the whole thing, dude. Is like the kayak community, especially like when you get into niche like industry stuff, like the kayak fishing community is right in Reaction's wheelhouse, like because it's kayak tournament fishing even is still kind of grassroots. You haven't gotten to the big boy mentality. You get a lot of guys like the guys I was competing against in the tournament trail I was doing Sunday. One guy had a bass boat that the battery died, and we actually had to tow him back to shore with our kayaks in his John boat. You had guys in pedal kayaks, and then you have guys that have forward facing sonar. Like it's a Wild West sport at this point with the kayak industry because it kind of blew up, and there's a lot of people that use the kayak to get off the bank. So it was like a cheap entry into fishing, which is a good way to get out of the bank and get out on the water. And I love I actually probably like fishing out of my kayak more than I do my bass boat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. The kayak fishing community is very interesting because yes, it did blow up during COVID. It seemed like everybody and their grandmother went out and bought a kayak or a canoe or something that was not as expensive as a John boat or something with a motor on it. So they had these things, but then they needed to figure out how to store them. Then they needed to figure out X, Y, and Z of what is compatible with what I just bought. And then you did start seeing like companies pop up that were supporting kayaks in general and tons of third-party attachments. So it is grassroots. A lot of it is word of mouth. There's tons of questions still to be answered in the kayak fishing community because now it can be extremely expensive. It can be almost as expensive as buying a bass boat. And
Absolutely.
it ranges so widely. And you have somebody who now, even though we're not in a pandemic, they want to get into the kayak fishing community. They're like, where the heck do I start? Like, do I go with this? But then what is offered with that? Do I go with this? But and there's this kind of, it's not underground, but there's a million kayak fishing forums and communities on Facebook and groups and stuff. And I find it fascinating. It's almost like being a part of like an exclusive club that not a lot of people know about it, but there's a lot of unknowns. Are you kind of seeing the same thing?
So one of the things that I think is the coolest thing about it is the kayak world. Like I said, it's the Wild West. So if you saw, I'll send you a picture of my kayak. So I run 9 rods. I carry five to eight 3,700 boxes. I actually have a Z Pro battery, a lithium battery that I've wired to run my GoPros off of, so I don't have to run stupid battery banks the whole time. So I'm wired up to the point where I can run my GoPros and my fish finder for 4 days on a lithium battery in my little 10-foot boat, and I don't have to charge it. So I can go on a long camping trip and not have to worry about charging batteries. And the thing about it, I think the thing is with the kayak industry is like you said, there's a lot of third party guys and there's a lot of 3D printing. The 3D printing industry suddenly became huge in the fishing industry because a lot of guys can print out stuff that you couldn't, like before you had to know a guy who did fabricating and who was doing it with sheet metal, or you couldn't in a kayak you needed to be as light as possible because there's a finite limit where how much weight you can put in a kayak. So you're getting a lot of guys that are like I said, you'll get guys in tournament trails, the MAKB. I was fishing against guys that were literally using sit-in kayaks. One guy showed up with a paddleboard, that rudimentary. And then you had guys that were running XI3s with 2 batteries, 3 graphs, forward-facing sonar. One of the guys literally took the kayak seat out and put an actual boat swivel seat, and
Nice.
so you get all this cool customization, and it creates this weird community of the one thing that I think is different is the fact that you get a lot of camaraderie in the kayak world, more so I think than the bass boat world. I feel like the
It-
bass boat world has got an elitist mentality almost. Like not everybody that owns a bass boat, but a lot of the guys in the bass boat are less likely to stop and be like, "Oh my god, dude, I love what you do with your kayak." Like I have so many people that are like literally in a kayak that'll come up to me and go, "Dude, where did you get that mount? Or how did you make that? Or how did you do that?" Like one of the things I did for my kayak was I made anchor line retriever. So in a kayak, when you're dropping anchor, it's one of the most annoying things in the world because that anchor almost always seems to find a treble hook when you have that line balled up in your lap. It's just part of it. So I literally looked up online and I found a video about how a guy took a clothesline retriever, pulled the line all the way out, and then tied on paracord, and then let it
Mm,
go back in so that you can have 100 feet of paracord that you can use for an anchor line. And there's stuff like that where you're still getting like that creative
yeah,
world these guys are doing. And the kayak tournament world is kind of blowing up, honestly. It's really becoming, I don't want to say it's not Bassmasters. It will never be at level, at least not for a while, but like the Hobies, even the Bassmaster tournaments, and even your small grassroots trails, you're starting to get more and more people interested in that like kayak tournament world because it's a $40 entry fee. You meet a bunch of guys at a boat ramp and you can go to these places, kind of like we were talking about. You don't have to go to Lake Champlain. You can go to a 200-acre pond and have a 10-guy tournament in a kayak, and you're going to have plenty of space for everybody to be able to enjoy it and not be on top of each other. So you
yeah,
get like streams, lakes, ponds that you can't get to in a bass boat that you couldn't do a tournament before. That all of a sudden now you have a long river that you could have 4 or 5 different access points that you can suddenly hold a tournament there that you never would have been able to with a bass boat.
yeah. Yeah, I think that, those lower level entry fees in the kayak bass fishing tournaments is key, right? Everybody wants something that's affordable, that's going to be a special event, regardless if you win or not, right? You're out on the water, you're enjoying nature, and the lower level entry fees is important because not all tournaments have that. And so Reaction Tackle supports an organization in Texas called Texas Bass Holes. It's founded by a gentleman named Albert Amaya. He's a great guy. He's been running the organization for quite some time now, and he started the business because he was so sick of tournaments not letting kids participate
Yep.
or women participate, or the entry fees were so high
Yeah.
in like the good areas. So he was like, "Screw you guys! I'm doing my own thing, and I'm gonna make this into something." He
Yep.
travels all over Texas now. He organizes for free. Anybody can do them. He funds it himself, and he threw donations to his organization. Um, Something that everybody can participate in, and he has kids, women, men, everybody of all ages, and it is something unbelievable that he's getting a ton of attention for, and he's just getting started. I think you're going to probably start hearing about his organization in the years to come, because it seems like he's growing at an exponential rate as well, which is really awesome to see.
I think the biggest thing with the kayak world is there is no right answer. Like one of the questions I get is, what's a good fishing kayak? Well, I can't answer that question for you because what I consider like I have an old town, right? I love my old town, but I've also hung out with Bobby who has a 12 and a half Titan. I want a bigger boat because I spend 10 hours a day. I'm making content, I'm filming, I'm bringing a ton of different baits, a ton of different products because a lot of times I'm just talking about a specific technique or specific thing. But for some people, they want the big bad boat. But like for
Mhm,
you, for example, I wouldn't recommend a Titan 12.5 because where are you going to put it? It ain't going to fit in your truck. Like
mhm.
you'd have to get a bed extender and you'd have to have all this extra stuff just to be able to haul it. And
Yeah,
if you're someone who likes to fish like streams and rivers, those kayaks weigh 100 pounds without gear in them. And then you're going to drag that down a bank to get to the stream where you don't have a boat ramp. Like you can't, it really depends. That's what's cool about it though, is that you can go to Walmart and buy a $200, $300 Sun Dolphin and catch 5 pounders. Cause I
yeah,
did. Started. My first kayak was a Sun Dolphin. It was a sit in kayak. And I made my first videos were all from that with a chest mount. And then I upgraded to the Old Town. But like, You can also go out and buy a $4,000 or $5,000 Hobie and throw a forward-facing sonar and a Newport motor on it, and you basically have a mini bass boat, still cheaper than what you would spend for a skeeter. But that's what's cool about it is you can make it what you want it to be. Whereas nowadays bass boats, even an entry level bass boat, you're talking quite a bit of money to get into that.
Yeah, it's honestly it's still the same sport, but it's kind of not.
It's not, yeah. I
It's
agree.
it's it should almost be classified as a different sport because the way that you are physically positioned is completely different. It affects how you're casting, it affects your mobility, it affects X, Y, and Z, a number of variables. I mean, you can I've got a Rebel, a Pelican Rebel. It doesn't have
Yep.
pedals in it. It's just, paddling out there. And there are times where it's so peaceful and I'm out there and I'm fishing that, the sun's going down, whatever the case may be. And I put my rod away and I just paddle, or
Yep.
whether it's back to the shoreline, whatever the case may be, like being that close to the water and I also have a boat. I've got a 17-foot Merc tracker with 25 horse on the back, and that serves its purpose. I love that boat, but there's nothing. It is totally different being on a kayak, being that close to the water, having your things so accessible, all within reach. Like there's no running around your boat. It's definitely a special experience.
Techniques are different too. Fish a jerkbait from a kayak versus a bass boat.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally different thing because there is no rod tip down in a kayak. You're
Yeah.
submerging your rod halfway into the lake.
Yeah.
So you have to learn. I actually think personally, if you're going to start fishing from like open water on a boat fishing, I personally think you should start in a kayak. And the reason I say that is because you learn to appreciate what travel means. So you learn to pick apart areas. You learn to really break down structure better from a kayak because you can't just go run across the lake when you don't find fish on that tree because it's the amount of effort that you have to exert to get from A to B. So you're more likely to really hone your skills and get good at reading water because if you're in a big body of water, you're going to have to go 100 yards in a wind with a paddle kayak. That's a lot of work and a lot of time. And if you're fishing on a time limit, you're going to lose half of your day just paddling. Whereas with a bass boat guy, if you start in a bass boat, in my opinion, like you kind of get that advantage of, they're not biting on this tree. I'm going to go out to the ledges and hammer down. You're there in 5 minutes and then you fish there. I watch bass boat guys all the time. And it's funny to me. Like I'm sitting there in a kayak, dinking and dunking a tree, and I'll see a bass boat guy come into my bay, flip his trolling motor down, cast 3 times, flip his trolling motor up, he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that time, I've caught a 5-pounder, 4-pounder, 3-pounder, and he didn't catch anything because he did 3 casts and moved on. Because I have that mentality of a kayak angler where I'm like, I'm going to fish this area and be sure there's nothing here before I make the effort to go to the next bay. And I think if you have both worlds combined, that's when you really start to kind of be able to do both things.
I love it. I really like that perspective. I completely agree. I never thought of it like that, where being in a kayak requires you to, give a certain spot more time and attention than if you're just hook up your spot lock on your trolling motor and just continue to cruise. Like you get 3, 4, 5 additional casts on a particular spot where you hit that log on a different angle than you would have if you cruised right past it and then you're already on a different angle. Like I took my kayak out. It's funny if I sit down and think about it, like I do catch more fish when I'm on my kayak. And I always kind of thought that it was because of the pressure I was putting in the water and being close. I'm sure that's something to do with it, but I mean, there's a lot of variables that have to do with it. Being quieter, I notice I'm much more quiet when I'm in my kayak. When I'm in my boat, I'm running around. I'm causing pressure differences because I mean, a lot of people do it, but you're just not as conscious of it.
Well, the thing is, like, so the perfect example is go into a bay and just sit in your kayak and then give it about 10 minutes and look down. Bluegill, bait fish, everything comes back. When you flow in, they swim out. But there's something about that kayak that nature just doesn't care. You're not as threatening in a kayak as you are a boat. So, like at the end of the day, the way I look at it, because like my bass boat, like I when I was fishing a tournament, like I'm trying not to give away too much because I'm going to release the video, but one of the things I did, and my buddy Bear that was on here earlier, I turned off my fish finder. And he goes, dude, why are you turning off your fish finder? And I'm like, I can't prove this. I have no scientific evidence, but I can tell you in this particular bay, when I turn off that fish finder, I start catching more fish. I think they know the sound, they hear that sonar, and it turns them off. And literally 10 minutes after I shut that fish finder off, we hooked into fish and then another fish and then another fish. And he stopped and he looked at me and he goes, what? And I'm like, it's the same thing with the boat. You walk across the deck of that boat. Well, guess what? An aluminum boat, that makes a ting that reverberates into the water. Whereas when you're kayak, you don't have as much sound and vibration that you're imparting in the water. So I think that's a lot to do with it. And honestly, the kayak, you're gonna, in my opinion, and it sounds really weird, but like I can boat position way better in my kayak than I can in my boat.
Mm-hmm.
I can get that cast. I can hit that stupid stick that's by itself in the water because I could turn my kayak, position myself, and just whip it. Whereas to turn a boat 180 degrees is not easy. Whereas a kayak, even my pedal drive, sometimes I'll even take my paddle, hold it, and pedal and like give myself a little tip so I can literally rotate my kayak 180 degrees and make that cast. You're not doing that with a boat. You kind of got to go out and around, even with the best trolling motor. So you can get yourself in that position better.
You're not the first person I've heard bring up that topic of shutting off your FFS or your fish finder. Like with certain lakes and tournaments having such a heavy presence of sonars now, it would not surprise me. It would not be out of comprehension to think that fish are adapting and understanding what's happening. Yeah. If they're getting caught, if they're feeling certain electrical signals or sonar, that wouldn't be like wildly surprising.
No, and in my mind, like knowing, because I know a little bit about bass biology. I talked to Shan, the aquatic biologist, quite a bit. I message him once in a while because I've had him on the show, and I like hit him up with random questions like that all the time. And you think about it, like their lateral line, what is that? It's receiving vibrations. Well, and I learned this the other day. I didn't even think about it, but I actually had my fish finder. My transducer is on an arm in my kayak, and I had it flipped up, and I was packing my kayak up, and I hadn't turned my fish finder off yet. I just forgot to turn it off, and I stood in front of my transducer, and I could hear it. I could hear the signal bounce. Like I could hear this like weird noise. It almost sounded like electricity crackle noise. And then I walked away, and then I was packing more stuff up, and I heard it again, and I was like, what is that? And I realized I was in line with the bottom of that transducer and that sound because I was so close to it. I mean, I was literally like this far from it. I was close enough to it that those sound waves were bouncing off of me, and I was hearing the reverberation of that. So if I can hear that as a human, and if you've ever been underwater and snap your fingers or do anything, if you really want to hear something, put your ear in the water when somebody runs a chatterbait through.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like somebody's banging on a trash can. Like it is loud. So those little subtle things with a kayak, you can be stealthy. And like I said, there has been times where I've been over top of 5-pounders, like looking down, and there's bass everywhere, and they don't run. You go down through there with a bass boat with your trolling motor, the vibration from that motor in your boat, the shadow that boat causes, it scares them away. And like you said, I don't think they're smart enough to know, oh, that's a human. I just think they know the last time I heard that noise, my mouth hurt and I was not in the water anymore, and a really bad experience happened to me. So that sound equals danger.
That's it, man. Pavlov's dog. Law of Association. There's a tournament trail that just popped up. I think this is its first year, or if last year might have been its first year, where they you cannot have forward-facing sonar. So it's gaining quite a bit of traction and attention here in Wisconsin. I believe it's northern Wisconsin, and their prize packages are quite substantial. So I'm very interested to see how that is going to go this year and beyond. And to see if other states start adopting that policy, because I do think there's quite a bit of frustration in the bass fishing community, particularly with forward-facing sonar. It's done a lot for the industry. It has, does help you catch. It helps you catch fish without a doubt. It's a great piece of technology, but not everyone has it, and you really can't keep up if you don't have it, and the rest of the field does.
I kind of wish, to be honest, so like there's no rules in Slay Nation about it in the current trail I'm fishing. But the other thing is, like, for example, the lake I fished Sunday for the tournament, forward facing sonar wouldn't do you any good there because it is a heavy vegetation lake and the bass don't suspend there. Like I have hundreds and hundreds of hours. Probably 60% of the footage on my YouTube channel is from that body of water just because I fish there. But the lake we're fishing next, it's a lot of it's a bowl. So there's nowhere for the fish to be. If they're not on the bank, they're going to be suspended in the middle. Like there is no other option. I've fished against guys with forward facing sonar and beat them. And then there's been days where, like you said, the advantage of it is if you know how to use it. I'm not good at targeting fish deep. It's just not my skill set. I need a structure to cast to. I need to know roughly. I basically never fish over 12 feet of water for the most part, unless I absolutely have to, because I need to be able to either work a bait through the column with like a crankbait or chatterbait or whatever, or target cast to something specific on the shore. I think, in my opinion, what should happen in a lot of cases is they should be like a mix. So you should be like, you can, like, tournament trail should be like, you can use it for 3 events. You get to pick which 3 events you want to use it, but you can only use it for 3. Or like give some limits to it, because then it's dealer's choice. Because one of the things that like Bassmasters I talk about is like, limiting it by lake. But like if you do that, yeah, everybody's getting it an even thing, but let's be honest. And this is something where, being in the fishing industry, you appreciate it more than anything. Let's be honest. Bassmaster is sponsored by Lowrance. They're sponsored by Minn Kota. The money in the industry comes from the pros using this stuff and people buying this stuff. And that's where more money gets dumped into innovation to make more baits, to make more products. And these publicly traded companies, they're here for their bottom line. So if you start banning it, those companies are going to go move to another industry, because as much as I would like to pretend that the fishing industry is a huge money industry, it's a very small world when you start looking at the industry as a whole. We're a tiny blip in the financial sector, and some of these companies that own these products are like not even close to the bass fishing industry. They own these products because they're another income stream. And if you start making too much limitation, they're just going to start pulling funding and move it somewhere else. But I do agree that like the forward facing sonar debate that's been happening, in my opinion, I personally like beating someone that has forward facing sonar just because it's an ego boost.
Yeah.
Because I'm using a Lowrance hook that doesn't even have side imaging. Like I don't really use my electronics more. I'm more of an instinct fisherman. But if Garmin called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, we're going to give you the unit and the batteries to run it," I'm going to put it on my kayak, because, like you said, when it comes to a tournament where the fish are suspending and I can't find them, the guy that's got the forward facing sonar has got an edge on me if he knows how to read it. So you do have that like financial issue. I don't have it because I don't want to spend $3,000 for a transducer.
Yep.
Transducer was as cheap as my Lowrance hook. I probably would put it on my kayak.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned Old Town, you mentioned Minn Kota. Both of those companies are owned by Johnson Outdoors, which is based out of Racine, Wisconsin. I actually applied for many roles at Johnson Outdoors, got very deep in the interview process. This is my first break into the fishing industry and the outdoor industry. I hope I work here forever. The experience has been wonderful. But Johnson Outdoors in particular, they've got the Tense Eureka, they own Jetboil. Well, I think one thing that they do really good though is that they're not stagnant and not just acquiring businesses for shareholders, but they're innovating and continuing to bring great products to the market. Like Old Town is in Maine, I believe, right? Did you go up to Maine and purchase from their
No, so you know what's funny is the story of my kayak is literally because I got fat, which is it's to be honest. So I had the Sun Dolphin kayak. So my whole fishing, like I said, I started out as a trout guy, right? My parents decided that when my son got older, my parents used to do a camping trip every year as a family. We would go for a week and we would stay at a campground and we would just do it every year with my cousins. They wanted to re-implement that. So we started doing it when my son got a little older. And my mom, in an attempt to exercise and be more healthy, decided she wanted to get a kayak, mostly for recreation. Well, my dad's a fisherman, so she convinced him to buy a Pelican sit on top fishing kayak so she could go paddle around and he would go because fishing, right? So I tried his kayak out, caught like a 3 pound largemouth and was hooked. So went out and bought a sit in. Then I was actually watching Alex Rudd's video talking about that Old Town that he got, the one with the not the autopilot, but the one with the motor before that. I can't remember what model that was. And he was talking about the weight capacity, and he went, "Yeah, and it has a 400-pound weight capacity." And I went, "I weigh 300, and I'm in a $200 kayak, and that's a $2,500 kayak. So what's the weight capacity of the kayak that I've been going out in the middle of Lake Champlain with 7 rods and a bunch of gear and camera equipment?" And I found out that me alone was 100 pounds over the weight capacity of my kayak before I put any gear in my kayak.
Whoa.
So I was way overloading that kayak. So then, and this was right before 2019, right before everything shut down, right? So I started looking online, and my dad, being a big boat guy, he's like, "Well, West Marine sells kayaks. I don't know if they have any in stock or whatever." Well, they screwed up and they listed their pedal drive, the Old Town Topwater. At the time it was Topwater instead of Sportsman. The pedal drive kayak at $900. At the time they were 1,800, but the paddle was 900. So they screwed up their SKUs and they listed the pedal drive at the paddle price. So I literally pulled out the credit card and I like sold, and ended up getting, my dad ended up buying one too, and we ended up getting, they ended up, to their credit, they honored the price. They knew they screwed up, but the site went down like literally about 2 hours after, because I called my buddy and I'm like, "Dude, if you want a pedal drive kayak, you need to go to West Marine site right now, because at the least you could sell this thing for $1,000 and make $100 profit like
Yeah.
tomorrow." And the site was down, like
Yeah.
gone. Like somebody made a big mistake, and so that's how I ended up ordering it through West Marine, and they did a site to store ship deal, so I didn't have to pay freight to ship the kayak to my house.
Sweet.
And I waited like a month and a half to get it, because at that point that was still like when everybody was going and buying kayaks, so they were waiting for supply. But yeah, I paid $900 for what is now a $3,000 kayak because the prices have gone up so much.
Look at you. That's a cool story, man. That's unfortunate. I hope somebody didn't lose their job, but I would totally understand if they ended up accidentally selling 25 of those things for half off.
Well, yeah, they sold a bunch of them because, like I said, for a while they were sold out on their website, and like when they called me because the site had it listed as the 12-foot version pedal drive. So they called me and they're like, "Hey, we don't have that kayak," and I'm like, "Yeah, here we go. You're gonna tell me you can't honor the price." I honestly didn't expect them to honor it. I was like, "There's no way they're gonna take $1,000 bath on this." Like they're literally losing more money than they're getting for this boat. And they're like, "We only have the 10-foot version. Would the 10-foot pedal drive be acceptable?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." I'm like, I don't know if the person I was talking to realized still what she was offering me, because she's still offering me a kayak that, again, at the time retailed for 1,800 for 950 plus tax.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Absolutely not a problem. Let me know when it's in." And they honored it, and I showed up and picked it up, and I have beat the crap out of that. I mean, that thing has been to Massachusetts, it's been to upstate New York, it has been all over I'm actually running out of boat launches in Vermont to fish from. Like I've literally just tried to see if I could fish every one in the state. Like I've it's got a broken rudder cable that I fixed with, crimps and stuff like that, but that thing has been, I probably have over 1,000, if not more, hours. I mean, I've already been fishing probably 12 times this year, and I only fish weekends.
Wow.
Like I take weekdays off from work and just go. Like I'm taking next Thursday off just to go fishing.
Did you end up messing around in Mr. Roast Beef's scavenger hunt?
Yeah, actually just the April one we just finished. I got 6 species in that.
Nice.
which
Good
wasn't.
going.
I mean, it was funny because the last species came in that tournament. Actually, I caught a crappie on a 6-inch trace. The 6-inch
Nice.
trace, the 5-inch swim bait.
Yeah.
I caught a
Wow.
crappie on that. I don't know what he was doing hitting that.
Crushed it, huh?
Yeah, it was a.
He's
I mean, it
hungry.
was a good size crappie, but yeah, I'm like, I don't know what you were even gonna, how you were even gonna fit this in your mouth. I don't know why you thought that you could eat this, but I did that, and then I actually did. Actually, I caught some fish. The mayhem thing he did last June? He
Okay.
did like an MLF style bass tournament where it was a slot. It was like under. I think it was under 17-inch bass, and it was as many as total inches of all the fish you could catch in a single event. So I actually caught. I want to say I was like little over 250, like 250 something inches. And to be honest, about 50 of those were on a reaction tackle wacky rig to bring it back around for you. But just
Excellent.
saying, it was on that
Excellent.
same reaction tackle hook, man. That was another Bobby. He's doing another one of those in June. Those are cool. If you like bass fishing, dude, you should check it out. As he does it's cool because he put the slot, so it prevents guys like my boy Daniel down there in the chat that's down in Georgia from catching 20s all day and killing us northern guys. But like, you basically catch as many bass as you can in that window of time, and it's kind of fun because it's like it makes catching dink bass entertaining
Oh yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
trying for those like 14s because you know that those 14s are in schools and you can pull out like 5 in a single spot and then move on to the next spot. I was literally running around with a Ned rig and a wacky rig and just basically
Yeah.
casting rock pile and tree and pulling bass out and scoring them.
Yeah, I think what he's doing is pretty cool. He's doing some different, unique things. The scavenger hunt is cool in its own way. I think the under 17-inch bass tournament is like kind of it seems so obvious when somebody does it because you can catch so many bass that are under 17 and they're still really fun. That's basically how I've, bass fished. I
Yeah.
haven't been going after trophy fish, 13, 14, 15-inch bass is like that's my sweet spot. So I might
It's
have to
funny
partake in
because
June.
the longer you do it, you get like I think some guys get too trophy like mentality. Like
Yeah.
I love catching bass in general. Now don't get me wrong, if I'm catching 10 inches all day, I'm probably gonna get frustrated and move on to a new area.
Yeah.
But like having a 20 fish day or 30 fish day, even if you're catching 12 inches, is still fun. Like that's what's cool about it. And that scavenger hunt that he does, that what's cool about that is, and a lot of people don't think about it the way I think about it from a content perspective, but also from by targeting bluegill, right, or perch or crappie, you're learning about bass fishing because if you're targeting the prey species for bass, you now know where there's a big school of bluegill because you've been trying to catch a bluegill to get your point. You now know where the crappie hang out at that time of year because you were targeting them to get your point. Well, guess what? That's the forage for the bass. So there's probably bass in that area too because they're hanging out waiting for their meal. So
Yeah.
you're actually teaching yourself about patterns because the bass just follow the bait. The bass are going to live where there's food and they're going to be as close to the food as they can so that they don't have to exert any more energy to go get a meal than they have to. So by going and targeting all these other weird species that you wouldn't normally as a bass fisherman give a crap about, you're actually increasing your knowledge base. Because the other thing is like you catch a bluegill, right? Not all bluegill are the same color. Some are darker, some are lighter. If you look at that fish and you know you catch bluegill out of a certain body of water, you can match that color. So you can find a square bill that looks like those bluegill that you know you catch out of that body of water, and all of a sudden now you're matching the hatch for your bass species. And
Yeah.
that's something that's like an underrated thing that people don't think about with the multi-species world is that you're learning how to be a better overall angler by just targeting these species that normally, like I said, as bass anglers, let's be honest, we poo-poo on the perch, like another stupid perch or
Yeah.
another stupid bluegill, but rock bass. But guess what? That's the food that our target species is eating. So you're learning by doing that.
Absolutely. And I think as I grow as an angler and just I'm more involved in the industry, I'm going from more of like just enjoying the outdoors and just getting out for fresh air and, catching fish to more of like a scientific approach of like, like what you're talking about, right? Like the chain of events that take place, what species are targeting what species and how is that going to affect me when I go for this species? I
Yep.
find myself thinking about that a lot when I catch a northern pike when I'm bass fishing,
Yep.
or if I catch a bass that's got big teeth marks in its side or its tail. I'm like, okay, pike are right here, or you're in like a sweet spot for pike. Where would pike be hanging out? Probably in that big thick weed edge over there, yada yada
Yep.
yada. Let me follow this. Let me take my kayak and paddle 100 feet this way.
Yep.
So documenting that stuff too is pretty important. Like having a train of thought and being able to reference that. So I've been doing that a little bit. Every time I get out, I'll mark in my printout, my fish
I got an
my
Excel
fish
sheet.
book.
Right, here we go. You should
Yeah,
see. I'll show you my Excel sheet sometime. I literally have it graphed, like bait percentage by color, bait percentage by lake, fish size by lake. I have them all graphed in Excel sheets.
I love that, man. I'm an Excel freak. I love Excel. I'd love to
It
see that sheet. You should send it
it's
to me.
it's sneaky because you can, like, what's cool is if you chart wind conditions properly too. So say you're gonna go fishing Saturday and you want to know where you should fish. You're not sure what lake to go to. Well, if you take your sheet and sort it and you go, okay, there's a south wind. Okay, sort my sheet by wind direction south. Okay, it's going to be sunny, sort it by sunny. And then all of a sudden you go, okay, how many total fish? So then you start looking at, like, okay, when the last, 2 years that I've been charting with a south wind when it's sunny, I was catching on swim jigs at this lake and I was catching 15 inches. So then you can kind of like almost use this as like a database to pick your spots or know what to pack. Because that's the other thing about a kayak. You're limited on space. So you have to really think about what you're bringing. So if you have the documentation, you can go, oh, well, yeah, I need to bring some jigs. I need to bring some swim jigs. Or, oh, yeah, that's right. That's the place that I got on them on a square bill. So I'll bring this particular bait that I wouldn't necessarily bring every time. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where and honestly, that's where the YouTube world comes for me too. Is
yeah.
I have the advantage of I can go back and look at my library of I have 12 terabytes of raw videos because I
That's a
keep a
lot.
lot of my raw and I only eliminate it as I need to for more space. But I can always go look at the date on it and go, okay, I'm going to go fish this lake in May. Let me see what I did there in May last year, and I can go watch my footage and be like, oh yeah, they were wacky rig. So it's
Yeah. Sometimes I'll sit down and think about like I'll get kind of lost in my thoughts about some of like the best anglers out there. How did they get to where they are? Is it purely from practice or is there like a scientific approach around experimenting with certain baits at certain times and certain books you're reading and what you're exposing yourself to? Or is it really just get out and fish and practice? Like there's so many finite variables between how you're twitching your rod and what
yep.
equipment you're using and what pound test and clarity and conditions. Like it can get extremely overwhelming. But I think the most important factor is just like get out and do it.
That so I will tell you right now, there's something that I say a lot on my channel is that your confidence transmits down the line. It's it's a weird like aura type of mentality, but I will tell you, I've been fishing. You can fish. Me and you can be in a boat together, and you could literally get a manufacturer that makes everything to spec exactly the same, and we can fish the exact same baits in the exact same spots, and you're catching fish and I'm not. It all comes down to tiny, minute things that you might do to impart action on your bait, or you may choose to cast at a different angle than I choose to cast. That's actually, I think, the most valuable thing about fishing is somebody with, like, I have ADHD and I get burned out with stuff. I'll play video games and then eventually I'll hit a point where that video game is dead to me and I'll probably never play it again. But fishing, you can't master fishing. There is no one on this planet that can go to a lake every single day of the week and say, okay, today I'm going to catch a 5 pounder. It's not going to happen. Is he going to be consistent? Is he going to be able to catch fish on average? Is he going to be able to do better than the average guy? Absolutely. But every single day, like you said, there is barometric pressure, there is line color, there is water clarity, there is speed of retrieve, there is environmental conditions. Every single factor goes into every single cast, and that determines whether you catch a fish or not. Now, if you have more experience, and that's really where it comes down to, is having documentation accelerates that, because if you know that every time I've come to this lake in this particular situation, I have caught fish on XYZ bait, you at least know where to start. So you have like a set of variables, and then you can kind of narrow it down. And that's what's cool about fishing, is every single time you hit the water, it's just a new puzzle.
Mm.
If you do it, a lot of the guys, like, I don't fish. I do research, and when I do tournaments, I do a lot of homework. But for the most part, I actually find I am more successful if I just go to a body of water that I don't know, because sometimes you get too hung up on your history, and you're like, well, I always catch fish on a Senko here, so I should be catching fish on a Senko. So if they're not biting the Senko, they must not be biting. Well, that's not true. They're probably biting something else. But because 9 out of 10 times you catch a Senko on this tree,
Yeah.
you're going to go to that tree and you're going to cast a Senko, and the fish isn't there. And now you're like, well, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's cool about fishing, is that once you start really experimenting, it's just like, that's where it all comes down to having the right gear and be confident in your gear and just work through the process. I
Yeah, I
think
think there's
accelerated that 1,000-fold though too, because you get the good old boys that, it used to be, to learn all this, you just had to spend 150 hours using a jerkbait. Now I can go watch KVD show me exactly how he uses a jerkbait in 4K. So you get that learning advantage of, you hear about a new technique or a new product that's coming out. Back in the day, I had to wait for Bassmasters magazine to learn about Reaction Tackle's new braid sale, or I had to
mm-hmm.
wait for the Cabela's book to come in the mail to learn about the new products that were out. Now, you release a new product, and 20 minutes later, it's in my Facebook ad feed telling me to click on this YouTube video, and Ben Milliken's showing me his new swim bait he designed
Yeah.
6 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, the industry is so much faster now, that the information, and that's where that 10-year-old comes into play.
Yeah,
That
yeah, exactly.
he watches YouTube and he knows about poppers.
Do you happen to use Omnia fishing at all for like their like fishing reports or tactics that people are using? You can enter it into their database.
I haven't, but I've considered it, only because they have kind of like a pro staffy thing too that kind of comes into that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've thought about it. The problem is that I'm also old school mentality on, I don't know how much information I want to share,
Mm-hmm.
because I fish a lot of small, like, my favorite lake, one of my favorite lakes is 80 acres. And I don't necessarily want people to know that there's 5-pounders in there,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's one of those places that, not that I have a huge presence and I'm not this like social media god, but people are going to start finding out where I'm at just by watching the video. And then if I start posting it on Omnia, now all of a sudden they've got literal waypoints, and like, they know exactly what baits to use. So I've kind of avoided being part of that, only because I would have to be selective as to what lakes I really want to share that information on, just because I don't want to compete with 50 people at the boat ramp. Because, to be honest, I will tell you, if you're at the boat ramp,
Yeah.
the first thing I do when I come off the boat ramp, which is contradictory to what I just said, I will literally walk up to guys, especially kids, and be like, black, blue on wood, let it sink, and only work it very lightly. Like, I'll literally go right through, like, I'll go through like chatterbaits out deep, 3 feet of water, slow roll it into the wind. Like, I'll give them the information when I'm on my way out the door. If they're already there, I'll share it with you. I mean, I literally have a
Yeah.
YouTube where I educate people on how to fish, but I don't necessarily want to post it on the internet and have 150 people at my boat ramp the next time I go there, because we don't have big bodies of
Yeah.
water like that around here. So
Yeah, I think it's twofold. You don't want an overcrowded presence of people. It just kind of ruins the experience of being in nature, because it kind of
right,
turns it into
and
like a
that's,
metropolitan area. And
yep,
second, it's you don't want those same people catching the 5-pounder you just caught and keeping it and eating it.
or
Um,
mistreating it,
or
keeping it out of the
mistreating it.
water for 15 minutes while they take 70 photos, and then, like, I've
Yeah.
seen guys that, like, guys in the bass boat that are like literally leaving it on the deck of their boat baking in the sun while they're looking for their camera. Like when I fish out of my
Yeah.
bass boat, I literally have a lip gripper, like a donkey leash, basically. And I because I don't use my live well on my bass boat because honestly I don't even know if it leaks. I bought my bass boat used and I don't trust it. So I literally will donkey leash them and throw them off the side so they're in the water breathing. There's probably stress, but at least I have enough time to grab my camera, pull them back out, hold it, throw it back in the water. Like you see some people do some stuff. Like I've watched people gut hook bass and just like not try to be finesse about it, just start.
Yeah. Very popular. People.
And I'm just like, it makes me cringe every time I see it. I'm like, dude, just respect that fish, man. Like, try to get it out of there gently.
Yeah. Chad Hoover just posted something cool about it. I mean, it's pretty, they sell devices and tools to follow the hook down and then pop it a little bit and then get the barb and then sneak it out. But you can honestly just use your finger if you have long enough fingers, to just pop it in and out. And, back to science again, I think we need to do a better job of informing the public of like, if you keep a fish out of the water for this long and then put it back, like there's detrimental effects, like that fish later on
Just
could
because it
die.
swims away doesn't mean it didn't die.
Correct. And like what, maybe there is more data out there and I haven't seen it. Do you like, shouldn't there be something all over these forums that say like, I know there's more tournaments that are saying, doing more take a picture on like a catch board and then right back in the water, right? Short, easy peasy. You're not in a live well. You're not getting put into a bag.
I'll piss off a lot of people by saying this, but I won't fish a bass boat tournament. You could guarantee me that I'm fishing with Mike Iaconelli in a local trail and I'm going to destroy everybody and win 10 grand, and I'm not going. Because I don't like the idea, regardless of what, and I get it, Bassmasters has invested way more money than I'll probably ever have in learning how to properly care for fish, and I totally get it. But you're still taking a fish and you're putting them in a 2x4 square and beating them against the side of it at 80 miles an hour going across the lake, and they're gonna die. And like, don't get me wrong, there is some attrition that's needed. Like for example, that lake I was telling you about with the 5 fish limit, they are so stunted that those fish don't get above 15 inches. There's a few big ones in there, but the fish are stunted. They're clones. These fish, there's literally such a strong genetic pattern in there. These fish have like similar market. Like there's this so many fish in there that's it. That's as big as they're gonna get. So that needs to be culled a little bit. But at the same time, in my mind, like there needs to be more of that CPR style in the bass boat world. These local grassroots trails, like Vermont is pretty big on like bass boat tournaments. There's a bass boat tournament 7 days a week on Lake Champlain. There's a Wednesday night or a Tuesday night or a Thursday night, or like it's a big lake. Yes, there's a lot of fish, but Vermont doesn't put any money into bass fishing. They put all the money and the resources into trout fishing. It is all trout. They stock trout. They maintain all that. They don't really invest a lot of money. They're not like Texas with their share lunker or any of that stuff. Like they put zero money into bass fisheries at all. And eventually, a bad year, and you got a bass boat tournament it's going to start to affect that population. And that's what bothers me is that you get like these guys that don't understand. And there was a lot of people, it's partially why I started YouTube. There's a lot of people that started fishing during the pandemic because you couldn't do anything else.
Yep.
Unlike me, who was in the car seat in the front of the 17-foot Sylvan that had a father that taught me everything. And I grew up in this world. There's a lot of people that grew up having never fished or only fished when they went camping and only used a bobber and worm and don't know like simple things. Like one of the things that Shan taught me is if you handle a bass have a slime coat. If you don't wet your hand before you come in contact with that bass, you're taking their protective layer off of their skin and now they're susceptible to bacteria. A lot of people know that about trout, but bass have the same thing. And I see a lot of guys, and there's nothing more irritating to me than this. You see this photo all the time with bass. And they're holding it by the jaw, and they're not. If you watch any photo of me holding a bass like that, I've got him like, I'm holding it, you're supporting them because their body is not made to be held by that jaw. I've caught so many bass that their jaw is broken. That there's a chunk missing out of their jaw. Like they were clearly like somebody held them and they broke their own jaw because they're holding them at a 45-degree angle. And like it's stuff like that that is just like, and like pike, like you'd probably know this being where you are, like a lot of guys, you can't hold a pike, in its mouth. A lot of guys use those lip grippers, but those metal lip grippers will shred the inside of a pike's mouth. And I've caught a lot of pike with like a hole coming right out of the bottom of their mouth
Yep.
because they don't think about the fact that you shouldn't just like stuff that thing in there and let them thrash around and then they're cutting themselves all up. Like that's the
Mhm.
kind of stuff that no one really talks about. And that
No.
kind of bugs me because, like I said, I'm not out there to hurt them. I want them to be there. I want them to make babies. I catch big bass. Well, guess what? The first thing I do once I get that photo, once I hold it up for my video, is I put it back in the water. I revive it. I don't just. You see a lot of guys do the freaking backflip and
Yeah,
just
yeah,
throw the bass 4 feet in the air and let them hit the water, and that's a pretty good chance that bass gonna die.
yeah. There's it's always easy to pick on the people who don't do things necessarily the right way, and me and you don't know the perfect way of anything
No.
either. But for every bad person, there's 100 good people, but it's easier to talk about the bad people. I think there's always with anything a ton of room for improvement. I'm super psyched about the future of the fishing industry in particular and the outdoor industry. Seems like we've got a lot of really fun, innovative companies coming to the market. And that just breeds more competition, more price competitions, more innovative competitions. But so one thing I know is Reaction Tackle is here to stay. We're going to be coming out with new, better products, and whether that be a different color, whether that be a different product category, whether that be a different quantity that fits a better situation, whatever that case may be, our owner is a genius. I fully believe that in identifying needs and gaps in the market. And yeah, just
Is
stay
there
tuned. A
is
lot of
there
exciting things coming.
is there a place, just out of curiosity, and we're actually I realized what time it is, so we'll probably wrap this up. But the one question I have, is there a place where if like somebody wanted a product from Reaction, is there a good place for someone to make that? Like if they wanted to send out, hey, I really think you guys should make this. Is there somewhere where that would be a good place for someone to send that information to?
Yeah, so the company name is Reaction Tackle. You can send any emails to info@reactiontackle.com. I
Okay.
monitor that email as well as our operations and customer service manager, and we all share that information. So that those emails get to my desk same day, and you'll most likely be working with me or sharing information with me. So if you guys identify anything or you see even a different company doing something and you're like, man, Reaction Tackle should be doing that, or this would be fun, this would be cool, yeah, shoot us an email at info@reactiontackle.com.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up right here, guys. I'm gonna put a link down. I did not get to it before we started, but I'm gonna put a link to Reaction Tackle's website, and honestly, I'm gonna put a link to their Amazon store because there's some stuff on their Amazon store that's not on their main site. You guys will be seeing throughout the rest of the year. I'm purposely going to be linking the stuff that I use simply because it's something that I personally vetted and tested, and I don't promote stuff that I'm not the give me money and I'll promote your brand and I don't really care if it's good or not type of guy. This is tried, true, tested. I've hooked logs and pulled them up from the bottom with this stuff. I'm not going to, recommend something, but I'm going to put all that in the show notes down below. Everything branded Reaction Tackle, right? Social media wise, you guys. I mean, I know when I tagged you from the adverts, it
Yeah.
looks like you guys are on TikTok, Instagram. You're on all the major ones. So
Yes, and we're getting a social media intern as my videographer and editor for the summer. So the next 3 months are going to be tons of awesome content, a lot of demonstrations, a lot of fun hype videos. We're going to be doing competitions, me versus the intern with certain things. So we got a
cool.
lot of cool things coming down the pipeline.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, check their stuff out. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. We had quite a few people in here pretty much the entire time. So like I said, if you guys haven't checked it out, I will put links down below for everything. And we are going to end the stream right here, guys. And